Alrighty, so I'd like everybody to make a note that tonight your images and the applications, your attachments and all of that will be part of the record. I also like to remind everybody that this is a municipal hearing, so also be mindful and polite and respectful to our board. We'll be as respectful to you as well. So if you're dialing in, I would like to make sure that you understand that *6 is what you would need to do to press to be unmuted if you're dialing in at the end of a hearing or during a hearing when you're asked if there's any comments from the public. So again, meeting ID 849-7881-8729, passcode 240705. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring this meeting to order. Usually we would do a roll call vote. We do have our board members here, as I had earlier. We have Chris Belisos, Larry Keane, Heidi Conway, Lynn Fiddler Chair, Mark Stiles, and Brian Murphy as voting members this evening. We'll switch them up a little bit. We also have another board member that is going to be Zooming in with us later on this evening, and that is Attorney Steve Feeney. Alrighty, so we're ready. My image is okay. We're ready. We have the audio. Thumbs up. Alrighty. So if you would like to explain this Madeira project to us and bring us up to speed, and congratulations on all the hard work and getting through this COVID situation and making that come to fruition. So
thank you very much.
Welcome to the board.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering. I am your consulting engineer for the record. And I'm here to just give you an update on the construction project, the Madeira Marshfield 40B construction project that is all but complete and partially occupied. But I wanted to at least give you a kind of an update on where we are with this. With me is Jeff Riley, the project superintendent. He's been the head coach there, helping me with every step of the construction from the beginning. 2 years ago when we started. Jeff, tell me, what was the start date, month or whatever, in 19?
April 25th of
19. So this is a few weeks after that, obviously, but this is what it looked like at the beginning of the project. The site's been cleared, and you can see the trailer, the construction trailer, that's there on the right-hand side. Next slide. I'm just going to advance it. And as we start to move forward, the site is starting to get prepared for foundations. There's some loam piles and processing going on. Again, the construction trailer's still there. They installed construction entrances like they were supposed to, put up erosion controls. Really no issues whatsoever. Next slide. Starting to see it progress. Now you see stick framing going on top of the foundations as you continue and you continue. This is all 2019. Then I advanced it into 2020. September 2020 is the next slide. Now you see entire phase 1, which is the bottom of the slide, and all the green around it, all the townhouses. Thank you. There's a senior moment there. Townhouse units and the clubhouse and pool were constructed in phase 1, and they started to erected a fence around phase 2, and started to construct all the foundations and frames for the apartment buildings. Also simultaneous with that was the construction of the wastewater treatment plant, which is off in the lower right, correct, in that area. And that was put online to accept the wastewater flow from phase 1. But what's great is the Mill Creek folks focused on getting phase 1 out of the way, getting phase 1 established, putting it together, and then set up and didn't slow down, kept going on foundations, kept going on leaching system for the wastewater system, erecting a function building, an operations building, and underground tankage and pumps for the wastewater treatment facility, and just kept it moving. And then we deferred a number of things for final inspection until we got to the latter part of the stages of this project. Now, I've briefed the board a couple of times. I have to say that this is one of the smoothest projects I've worked on for you. One of the smoothest projects I've had, really, to do construction inspections for. Jeff and his team were really cooperative, all the subcontractors, especially his site contractor, which is key for my work, my oversight. Site contractor was a pleasure to work with. Walked through all the different things I needed to look at with him, made corrections on the spot, made corrections and informed me what he did. It really was a true team, and it was very true team effort, very easy to deal with. Next slide. Now we're going to get into slides just showing the completed product. These are pictures that were taken on the 1st of June, so it's just this month, but shows all the site completely constructed, occupied, including the garages in the left rear area there. So the site's come together pretty well. There's some final punch list items. Next slide. Here we go. So that's a great shot showing a perspective. Drone footage, drone shots like this are kind of hard to turn down. It really gives you an idea of what it looks like. I'll point out that on the left side of the site is a slope going up to the woods, and that is an area that they built those apartments in the upper left side of the site. They built those apartments into the slope and really did a nice job tucking it in there. Also, that slope was fairly steep, but the site contractor was able to slope that and to manage the erosion and establish seeding, establish some grass there to stabilize it fairly early on in the project, and didn't become a problem ever again. So they really kept an eye on the things they needed to keep an eye on. That was one of those things that we were all kind of concerned about, making sure it was managed. Next slide. And this is should be the final slide of this group, just an aerial shot looking straight down on all of it. This is on the right-hand side of the site. In the entrance, you can see all the dark paving. That was the final paving work that was done a couple of weeks ago. So what's remaining on this site are some final punch list items. There are some landscaping items here and there. There's a couple of street sweeping items that Jeff is taking care of. There's a couple of things in regards to the paving, surface items to take care of. And really the only other portion of the site that isn't done, and if you could, Andrew, zoom in by the trailer, construction trailer. So all the nice dark paving is all done, with the exception of the spot where the trailer currently is. And so you're doing a great job trying to get it there. Well, you're almost there. You know where to go now. Go north, right? No worries. Not an easy thing to do. So the only spot that isn't done is the trailer area. Are you on the last? No, that's the one you want to be. So zoom out. There you go. There you go.
Right there.
I can go up and go like this to the screen.
Right. So that's it. So there's the wastewater plant construction trailer is just clipped on the edge there. So right up there, there's some paving that needs to be finished there after the trailer is removed. And there's a catch basin that Jeff reminded me of that's behind there. That flow is currently draining there now. And trust me, Jeff was kind enough to meet me on site at 5 o'clock, right when we were able to test how good it was draining.
But with the storm.
With the storm.
Tonight, yeah.
So we were able to see how the drainage patterns worked. So it's all working as designed. And once they vacate that premises there, they'll repave what's not paved, as you can see, and then they'll be 100% done. So my job going forward is to work with Jeff on the final punch list items. There's not a lot, just 3 or 4. Wait till that final paving is done, and then there's an update to the as-built plan that will be done. But they did provide me what I consider is reasonable as-built plans last week, 4 pages of as-built plans. I have not studied them. I need to print them out full scale and just take a quick look at them. It looked like everything I wanted was on there. Earlier in the phase, in the project, they'd given me phase 1 as-built, and I said, those are great, but I want this, this, and this. Well, all that stuff is on the new one, so that they gave me. So I'm pleased to say that things are looking in the right direction. So we're very close to closing out the project, I mentioned to Jeff, if his team would like to close it out completely and walk away, for those things that are undone, we can assign a dollar value to it, and they can provide a check, a surety to the town to leave on site in escrow until those things are done, and then it can be released after I do a final inspection. So however they would like to do that. I have to say that Andrew's office, the building commissioner's office, has been very cooperative and helpful with them. They've already got all their occupancy permits. So as of right now, Jeff, you may not know the answer, but would you tell us what the percent occupancy of the entire site is? Do you have an idea?
Yep, as of last Thursday, we still have a meeting with operations every Thursday, and they had just broken 70% on the site, so they're doing very well.
So 70%, and they haven't pulled stakes and left yet.
Okay.
So it's, essentially they've been done for about a month, but still, that's pretty damn good to be at 70%, saturation rate already.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, it's a beautiful facility. It is a really beautiful facility. But they had their share of challenges. For instance, the irrigation well.
Which obviously didn't keep up.
Well, unfortunately, that was gonna be my first question.
Correct.
Yes.
So we have plenty of pictures that show that really bright green, and that's gonna recover, but that's one of those things that they're working on, so that.
Yeah.
Right. So the irrigation well location was, we thought, going to be okay, but it didn't produce enough water. The well didn't produce enough water in the bedrock location. So
Okay.
you throw $10,000 or $15,000 at the spot you chose and it doesn't work, you gotta go do that again, and that's what they had to do.
So you've done
Two more
that, and
times.
you've done it 2 more
We have
times?
3 wells on site now.
Okay.
So one well wasn't productive enough to get the quantity they needed, so
Okay.
they had to go to more for their irrigation
So do you
system.
close off that well and just start?
No,
You
it's-
keep- use all of them.
Use
So the
all-
front, that phase 1 there, what we calculated was, we were looking for about 25 gallons per minute out of the well, and we achieved 18,
Okay.
so almost, not quite. So we supplement that with the well in the back left corner, which picks up a good chunk of that phase 2, and then whatever, that yielded, I believe, 25. So that got us a good chunk of the 5 buildings to the left. And then one more well was drilled right next to the maintenance building, which is a small building next to the construction trailer there. And that's supplementing around the dog park, the circle, and the what's now a big field next to the last 2 buildings to the left of us. So down on the lower end there, so it was kind of a perfect storm between, trade-off between the landscaper that owned the warranty on the work and the new maintenance contractor. That transition happened on the week that was, to that point, the hottest week of the year. And so they missed a few days of water, and it ground up pretty quick. So it does look better. That's earlier this month.
Yeah, it
It's
looks better
already-
today. It looks, you wouldn't notice that it was browned up. You just
Yeah.
wouldn't notice it. If you go close, you'll see that it's recovering still, but it's not anywhere near the same
Okay.
state. So,
But the hill as established, looks fine.
Correct,
and
right.
The things that we were really concerned about in the very beginning.
We actually touched that up again.
You
earlier
sprayed
this
it, is
year.
that why it's nice and pretty green?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
so at the very top of the
Resprayed
site,
it.
the very top of this picture is an apartment building. To the right are 3 garages. So that area around the back of the garages was disturbed. It's been seeded, but it's not, it's taken now. But
Okay.
in this picture, it didn't look like, it was like,
Okay.
it would have been seeded at this picture, but it hadn't been established yet. Now it's
Right.
looking pretty good.
Those guys also own a 1-year warranty on that work, so
Okay.
we're planning on revisiting that area in the grow season in the fall, so
Okay.
we'll be.
And we didn't have a lot of
Interesting idea.
snow this winter, so
No.
you didn't run into a stockpiling of snow issue or any of that?
No, but I have to say, since I'm wrapping this up, and this is our first meeting together, having not seen and physically not met a couple of you on the board, and I'm your consulting engineer, haven't met some
That's
of you.
right, yeah.
But during COVID, they had their share of challenges, okay? So they actually hired a nurse, environmental health nurse, to screen everybody, every worker that showed up there. Now, they had a lot of workers. On a big day, they had over 100 people.
150.
Right.
So they went through a gate and sat
So
with
they
a
had to go
nurse.
through a screening process, even I did. You go through the temperature check, and have you traveled anywhere where there's COVID? Have you had COVID? Do you know anybody that's had COVID? On and on, right? So they went through a lot of rigorous, almost instant, corporate programs to establish so that they could operate a safe environment. Then they actually had to continue to operate that during the whole COVID process. They actually continued to operate a compliance check of that. So people that would show up in carpools, and you can imagine lots of workers would do that, now they're exposing each other to potential exposure. Their corporate rule was, if you're in a carpool, you're going home for the day. You can't show up at work, you have to drive your own car. So all of a sudden, we went from having a few cars to a bazillion cars out there. Okay, to provide separation, so you were not in a car with a potential exposure. So they were very careful. They did have people, framers, when framing group got exposed, they were gone for 2 weeks, came back with a negative test, that was fine. So they did have people that tested positive, but I have to say that their corporate safety folks were pretty aggressive, and Jeff and Keith and their team were very aggressive at maintaining some kind of plan, so that it wasn't just giving lip service, because they couldn't work unless everybody was able to work. So they couldn't build without that. So
I'd like to echo that. Doing a lot of these inspections and seeing everything firsthand, it was really impressive the way that they handled the pandemic.
signage, sanitation stations, all over the site. It was really well done.
And
Okay.
I've used their model with other towns, shared that with other towns, other commissioners, because it was so effective and they did a really good job.
Okay. So that's nice to hear.
Good
So
job.
this board, and I'm sure boards in the future will have this as some sort of a templating of what we're looking for. There are a lot of waivers, don't get me wrong, for this particular project, and Ed really knows his stuff, and he knows where this board's at when we were writing out those conditions. So I'm sure he's got this board and the town of Marshfield and the citizens of Madeira on his mind when he's going through and checking all these things off. So I appreciate everything you've done for the board. And,
I can't thank Jeff enough. It was really a pleasure working with his team. So
All
sad to see him go. Build another one, Jeff. Get another one. Let's go.
No
Just
comment.
might do that.
Are there any questions from the board on this particular project? Mark, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the public?
How
It's your
many units?
opportunity.
We have 35 townhouse units and we have 213 apartments.
So, all right, well, thank you very much, and I wish
Thank
you
you.
the best.
Thank you very much.
You take care of our citizens here in
Will
Marshfield,
do.
please.
I'm one of them, so.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Jeff volunteered to come to tonight's meeting.
Because you didn't have to
completely-
drive that far.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I had to go home and change first because I
Go home
got
and
to
get on
walk around.
Zoom
You
and
got
Put your
Trent's
jammies
walking around
on?
with me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you,
right.
appreciate it,
Thank you.
thanks.
Guys, thank you.
All right, folks, so in the beginning, we hadn't actually pulled this meeting to order, but I did mention the changes in our agenda. So I just want to clarify and make sure that everybody is aware that we are going to go straight into American Towers, which is a continued hearing to certain, and that is case 21-28, American Towers LLC, and that's 0 Snow Road. And I had, the board had actually asked Ed to represent us as a peer review on this project. So we have two folks, I believe, zooming in. Andrew, do you see them? I see Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Can you hear me?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Hi,
Good evening.
Hi, nice to see you. Do you have another individual joining us this evening?
Yes, both, actually two individuals. Brian Lanier, he's the professional engineer from American Tower. He's also available this evening, as well as Keith Valentin. He's the RF engineer from C-Squared.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Keith.
So, I don't know if you have met our Ed Pecci, but you can see him. He's here, and I appreciate all the work. You know, these hybrid meetings are something. But we did have, so the board's aware that we did have a site visit. I was there, and Larry Keene and Chris Belisos. And then we had some concerns, and it was clear that there was abundance of information that was beyond the scope of what I'm used to dealing with, and we definitely needed an engineer. So I'd like to give the floor to Ed to kind of give the board his impression of the information that we were presented with. And then we have, I'm sure we'll have some more questions, and then we'll open it to the public and work through some conditions or an actual decision and take it from there. So Ed, if you wouldn't mind beginning our hearing for this evening.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Thank you. Again, for the record, I'm Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering, Consulting Engineer to the Marshfield Zoning Board for the review of this project. Let me preface my remarks by apologizing, or at least acknowledging to the applicant and his team that you only got my review letter today, so you haven't had much time to really chew on it and look at it, but I don't think these comments are anything that would prevent the engineering team from addressing them, that they're not significant, but there are some things that you need to think about that I'd like to recommend that you think about, and recommend that the board include in their future decisions should you be so inclined to approve the project and move forward. So let me grab my review letter and just go through it for the benefit of the board and the public here. So this project is, as alluded to, is a telecommunications tower. It's planned to be 120 feet tall. In the rear corner, kind of the northeast corner of, making sure I got the, sorry, it's the northwest corner, southwest corner, excuse me, of the Webster Square shops.
Can you just identify that
I'm looking
legend
at a,
so Andrew can put it up?
yeah, this is a, I should use the, this is a plan that I had
Okay.
from another project, the Webster Square project that I reviewed for the town and did
Okay.
construction. I think if we are able to bring up the site plan, Andrew,
For this one?
for this one, right.
American Towers.
So it's a 120-foot project, 120-foot high above grade. There's discussion in the brief, in the rather extensive brief that was provided in support of the application, that discusses the fact that there's some Verizon wireless equipment that's attached to that actually extends the height another 3 feet. So really the total height is 123 feet above grade, if I read it correctly. This project is actually asking the zoning board to approve or to endorse 3 permits. One is a special permit under your zoning bylaw. The second one is site plan review, also under your zoning bylaw. And third is some variance relief under the zoning bylaw. And there's a rather thorough review or thorough explanation of each particular area of relief that's been requested. I did not see any major problem. There's a kind of thorough justification provided. I'm not sure, just for argument's sake, I'll just say, and Mr. Klasnick, I'm not, no offense intended here. I'm not sure I agree with the fact that there's a financial hardship that's created by not having you approve this on behalf of Verizon. Just looking at their repertoire, there's thousands of towers that they run and multi-million-dollar company, and not having one in the town of Marshfield would not present to me a financial hardship in my mind on the part of the board. However, I think there's enough evidence that their radio frequency engineer provided and that you normally look at to say there is a service gap in the town of Marshfield in this area. They also provided you, in my opinion, a decent kind of amount of information, kind of a lot of information, explaining their thought processes on all this. So they looked at alternate sites that were not available. This is a commercial site in a commercial zone. It's actually a pretty good intended use for this location. There are not a lot of abutters, residential abutters to this site. There are a few, but there's not a lot of impact in my opinion, but that's obviously for the board to decide. But in overview and overall, I'd say it's not a bad location. It's a reasonable location, and it matches a location where the radio frequency report was given that shows the gap in coverage. So does it serve the public interest? I believe it does. Does it serve the public safety? I believe it does. Obviously, it's up to the board to take a look at that as well. Moving through, let me go through my technical review comments and my recommendations. The first one is strictly surrounds the calculation of what's called the theoretical fall radius. So just to kind of summarize, there's an engineer, stamped engineer's letter that describes how if the monopole were to fail, it's to fail at a certain height, and the remaining part of the pole that would break off and fall would fall a certain radius away from the base. That's the overarching explanation. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any of the math in his letter to work. I didn't understand it, so he needs to, I would just like him to explain it a little bit better to me. To me, it looks like it's maybe higher, perhaps higher than 63 feet, or well, longer than 63 feet in diameter, it's more, or in radius. It might end up being closer to 80 feet, but that's my estimation just based on what he told me, and I'm not sure I'm reading it correctly. I need him to clarify that. The second item that I mentioned here is that it would appear that some of the equipment could be shifted to the east. So all the equipment, the pole, the enclosure, the cabinetry, the fenced-in area, could all be shifted to the east, away from T-Rock Gardens apartments a little bit further, perhaps another 20 or 30 feet, and still be over 100 feet away from the nearby wetland resource area. So it would do two things. If perhaps the fall radius is larger, it would provide a bigger area, because right now they're 122 feet away from, the monopole is shown to be 122 feet away from, and I guess we should grab the plan to show this, right? The monopole.
We used to have a pointer too, and that you could identify, but Andrew can probably, it won't work on this board,
Yeah,
won't
well,
it?
the red one does.
The-
Give you the green.
The green one, so.
I have a green one, but it doesn't, let me just see if I can get it to work. It doesn't work unless I'm straight on the screen.
Well, Andrew's pretty good at deciphering. Right, Andrew?
Yeah, the problem is I'm just trying to get the site plan up that has.
Okay,
the actual
okay.
location.
So you can see the green and it's there unless it just gets lost. So I guess I can't get it to work on this one. Yeah. It was working fine on the
There's like a
Zoom,
pointer?
on the Zoom side of it, I thought, but I guess it's not gonna work.
Well,
So
last
these
week.
site plans, Andrew, can you is that just one sheet?
It is, yeah.
So do we have the entire stamp set available?
We do, it's all in different pages, so I have to open up each individual page. Is there a specific page that you wanted?
Yeah, let me just see if I can find it.
The tower design.
Maybe Brian or Keith, can you reference which page?
There's a sheet that would
The
show the separation, I mean, C101 or or at least C101 will give you the overview. C101 is the one, it's overall site plan. I think we got it. Just if you open that one up, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry.
See, it's overall site plan is the one that it's called, it's sheet C101, C-101. And it won't, and yeah. So, see it says, exhibit number 9 maybe is where it's included? Yeah, that's not it. Sorry.
I have it.
If I may,
Please.
if I may,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be Exhibit 2.
Okay.
If you're looking for the.
There you go, stamp plans. There it is, yep. Exhibit 2.
They were originally in the email.
I assume the board has seen the photo simulations to understand what the visual impacts are? Okay.
Yeah. it's just been, I mean, I reviewed it today, but it has been a while since the board has seen
Seen all
this
that?
project. Yeah, we had a,
We should see it in its entirety.
yeah.
I don't have access to anything here, so.
Do they have it that they could share?
We don't have the current plan on this
Can they share?
thumb drive,
Can they have
because
it?
we're not tied into like our normal drives that we are with our regular
Okay.
computers right now.
So,
So I can't access anything that was on.
Brian, do you have the Exhibit 2 stamped plans that you could share?
Can you release, share
And take-
capability for them?
I can make one of them the host, the co-host, so that they can share the plans, the site plan, whether it be Dan or Brian or whoever.
So-
I believe I have them available if you want me to try and share them.
If you wouldn't mind putting them up for us?
Okay. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
just
Andrew, I have a thumb drive here that is loaded with all the stuff that we were earlier provided, if you want it.
Thank you, Chris.
see that now or no?
We
It's under-
see
it's under
the
Snow
list of
Ave.
files.
Let
There's,
me try that again.
there's 6 files shown. Oh, now we see your email.
It's all in that one, Andrew.
I don't know why that's not coming up.
We can let Andrew catch up and then we'll backpedal for a second.
I think I can get those right now. I have them already open. so-
Oh, okay.
And it looks like in my absence, it looks like Mike has already responded to my first question.
On the calculations?
On the calculation, right.
Do you have that?
I don't have his email, no. I was traveling, I was at Mill Creek.
Circled.
You can't see the plans at this point?
No.
I've got them now, so I can take it back from you.
Thank you
Okay.
for your help,
Thank
though.
you.
Thanks, Dan.
That's the explanation on the calculations, which didn't,
You don't need that? What do you want?
no, the original application.
no.
Hard copies.
You're doing those, right?
Okay, that's a better answer.
Satisfy you?
Explains the whole story. So,
So before you,
That's the
before you
rec-
go, Ed, so for the record, this is an email from Mike to Ed Pesci.
Mike K.
Mike K.
Right.
Yeah, Mike K. Tuesday, June 22nd, 2020, 4:13. To
Other
Ed,
direction.
with an explanation. I'm just making that clear to the board. Okay.
So it appears that there's a reason why when that, I had the math correct, so that 40 feet up from the ground, the 76 foot left in the air does break off. It's got a design to do that. But because of according to Mike, the design engineer, according to cabling and other restraints that are on that portion that would break off, it is designed to fall so that it would no longer extend. So if the pole is here and it breaks off, it would break off and fall, so the full 76 wouldn't be out here. If a part of it would be here, it only extends 63 feet from the base.
And nothing on the pole would shatter and fall.
Correct, so.
So that's an
I mean,
explanation
when the
from the-
when the top of the pole hit, the Verizon wireless stuff would not be usable anymore, but other than that,
Okay,
yes.
all
I
right.
just wanted to see, I didn't understand the theoretical fall radius until I got that explanation, and that's exactly the kind of thing I expected.
Okay, so number 1, check.
Correct.
Okay.
So the 63-foot theoretical fall radius is correct.
Okay.
So, have you gotten to sheet 101 yet there? Keep going. Yep. Yep, no, go the other way. That's it, keep going. Keep going. Should be right there. Go back.
Oh.
Go back one more.
There it is.
Right there. So, right, so the distance from the pole to the property line is 122 foot 11 inches. Okay? As you can see, and I'll stand over here so the public can see what I'm pointing to. That's the 122 foot dimension I was looking at before. Thank you, Andrew. So you can see that that's also several feet, probably, these are 25 foot separations of the 20, this is the wetlands, the 25 foot buffer, 50, 75, and 100. So it's 25 feet away from the 100-foot buffer. So I didn't understand why this couldn't be shifted 24 feet, for lack of, or 20 feet. So you now you have 140 feet, 142 feet, 143 feet. A little bit more separation, a little bit more noise attenuation, a little bit more safety, on and on and on.
Okay.
If there's some reason why I can't, I'm open to that discussion, but that's my point of the second point of my letter.
So I just want to make sure that the board is clear that that hatched line is the property boundary, and what you're seeing at the bottom, that other parcel, there is a conservation restriction, so that is a no-touch zone as far as I can understand, and that limits their ability to work in that zone, but the fall radius is going the opposite way and not falling into the no-touch zone.
And these are the existing T-Rock Garden apartment buildings that are the closest residential abutters. So this
So the
would,
12211 is actually the dwelling. It's not
Correct.
the line.
correct. Did I say property line? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I meant 12.
No, good.
It's 60 feet or something. On the next slide, go to the next sheet, Andrew. I believe it says that elevation, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but that's a zoom in of the actual location of showing it. But you can see, here's where we are, here's the 100-foot setback. I'd like to see it switch over here so that the 100-foot setback, you're a little closer to the 100-foot setback over there.
So you're saying like 25 feet would make you happy?
Something that wouldn't, you know, they're being extra conservative, staying away from the wetlands.
Mhm.
I didn't see any wetland flagging to know if that's an accurate line, but it looks like it's reasonable. But they're 100 feet away. The conservation department's looked at this, doesn't have any major issue with it. So I'd like not to have them to have to go through going to the conservation department
Sure.
just to do that. So sure, I don't want them to be right on the 100-foot setback, 110-foot setback maybe, just so that they have a little bit of room, but you're providing a little more separation from the neighbors. I think that's not unreasonable. Unless there's some good technical reason you can't do that. They can't do that.
That's one of the things we discussed at the site visit.
Okay, very good. Item 3, the environmental sound assessment that was included. Table 3 on page 13 predicted the worst-case sound levels at the western property boundary, again, closest distance to the equipment, from the equipment to the T-Rock Gardens, was to be 49 decibel A-weighted daytime and 33 decibel A-weighted nighttime. In that sound assessment, environmental sound assessment, they took the zoning bylaw sound requirements based on frequencies and converted it to a sound weighted, basically a conversion to the sound that we would see, and they created, they were able to take and look at that and created a 45 decibel nighttime sound limit and a 50 decibel daytime sound limit. So if you read through that, it explains how they did that. So I'm saying, well, if the limit's 50 and they're at 49, and the model says it's 49, and I'm living at T-Rock Gardens, I'd certainly like to make sure it's not over 49, so I'm recommending that in addition to moving the site slightly east, that after construction, they do a worst-case environmental sound check, and that would be to ensure that the equipment's on, the generator's on, they go out to the property boundary and check to see what it is at daytime level. So it's substantially below the 45 decibel limit for nighttime, but daytime level, we're at close to 49, close to 50, right at 50, and I just thought, hey, that's not an unreasonable thing to check. It's also a way to confirm how good the model is, because they're not measuring it, they're modeling it. But it's, you know, should be reasonable. It might even be a little conservative, so they might have no problem.
Now with that test, if it was at over the 50, would they have,
There's ways
Would they be,
to attenuate the sound that they could put in place after construction.
so they
that-
would be
that
able to
would
remedy
attenuate.
that?
I would say that they could remedy that. And they may already be talking as a team. After they look at this, they may talk as a team and say, well, not only that, but we'll put in the extra attenuation model that makes it even quieter before we go to check that. But I would recommend that be a condition of your approval in the decision if you, again, so choose to approve the project. Item 4, there was a discussion about not needing any grading, right, not wavering, asking for relief about drainage, and that the site is relatively small, there's no drainage issue. All I want them to do and recommend is that they provide a grading plan showing some spot grades so that the runoff that they create as a result of this is contained on their property and not running out into the parking lot and creating icy conditions in the winter. So as long as it's not doing that now, we don't want it to do it again, don't do it in the future. And I just thought, well, either they put in an area drain or they grade it so it's grading away from the current pavement area and they contain the drainage on their own location. Item 5 is kind of a wrap-up of a few things. And again, I'll read, subject to the discretion of the board and due to the similarities of the project, I recommend that all 16 special conditions contained in the August 11th, 2017 decision by the Marshall Zoning Board. This is case 1732 that I attached for 1204 Union in Marshfield be incorporated in the decision. There are a number of of special conditions, and I'll read just a few for the benefit of the board. Any co-location of antennae, the wireless facility shall not increase the height of the monopole. All proposed wireless communications equipment shall be installed, erected, maintained, and operated in compliance with all federal, local, state, and local building, structural, electrical, and safety laws and regulations. Pretty standard language. I thought that all 16 seemed to be applicable to this project, and I thought of the couple of decisions I looked at, this was the better one. In addition to that, I'm asking for a couple of things just to add belt and suspenders to the decision. That in the future, if any equipment is proposed to extend the combined height of the monopole and equipment greater than 123 feet, the applicant must obtain approval for such a change from the board. Item 2, or item B there, that all site lighting provided for this project shall have a 90-degree vertical cutoff and be dark sky compliant. There is a site light in the cabinetry area. It's not clear whether that's actually open to the sky or it's underneath an overhang. There wasn't enough information provided, but I wanted to make sure that that wasn't creating a light issue in the future. I don't think it is, but if we show this condition, it takes care of it. A post-construction environmental sound assessment be conducted during daytime and nighttime hours at the nearest property boundary and with the equipment on and emergency power generator running. A report of findings shall be submitted to the board. So obviously we're expecting them to provide you a report of findings showing less than 50 decibels during the daytime, less than 45 at night. The model shows that it would be less than that at night, but very, very close, as I said, during the daytime. So after looking through the extensive amount of information that they provided you, it was quite a lot of information. Subject to your questions, that's all I had to present to you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ed. So, my interpretation of all of that was that for the purposes of a decision, we would keep conditions 1 through 16. I believe town council has also weighed in on this. Keeping items 1 through 16 as a draft decision and including in that the condition number 3 that refers to the 49 daytime sound levels.
Comment number 3.
Comment number 3, exactly. Right. And comment number 4 would be another condition, so that would be 17 would be comment 3, 18 would be comment 4, and then 19 would be A, 20 would be B, and 21 would be C.
Actually.
Does that make sense?
Actually, the C, A, B, and C are the new recommended additional items. You could certainly request that they provide you a grading plan.
Prior.
Prior to final decision, issuance of final decision. I don't know that that needs to be a condition, special condition, but the 3 conditions I recommended were under my comment number 5.
Okay.
So you could just.
So the other ones you
could just
feel
say
we could work
17,
before we
18,
close?
19, right.
Okay, okay,
3 and C are pretty much the same, correct?
Correct.
okay.
I just put them all in one place.
Yes.
All right.
Great.
17, 18, and 19. Does that make sense, everybody? A lot of information. So I'm thinking that we should give the applicant a chance to speak, then we'll continue it and then have a draft decision for the next hearing.
Actually, before that, can we make a couple comments on this so the
Absolutely,
applicant
that's
can
what,
address
that's our
it
next,
accordingly?
yep. So go ahead.
All right. So Ed, first off, thanks, appreciate it. A lot of this information was pretty much above my pay grade. I appreciate the time.
A lot of stuff there.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. But you're pretty much satisfied with the fall rate, correct? The engineering
The fall
response
rate
you
is
got?
correct.
So you're all set with that.
17, 19.
I'd like to see it moved over. That was one of the things we had discussed at the site visit, as far as moving it over. I agree with you also that maybe they shouldn't have to move it to the point where they would need to go in front of conservation again, but if we could get another 20, 25 feet, if that could be addressed, that's a possibility. And everything else looks pretty easy to obtain for them. I don't see anything here that's I think would be an issue for them being able to attain. You know, the tower falling is a long shot, but there's definitely going to be noise coming from it, so I'd like to see that addressed when it's done. And that's pretty much it. for me.
One thing we had discussed on site with the engineer is, since the drop zone is into the paved area, that maybe they could put some marking there so people don't put equipment or cars back there, potentially in the area where the tower is designed to drop.
Yeah, obviously, we go through this when we're thinking about power turbines, large fans, and you have to think about that too, right? So blade drop radius. It certainly wouldn't hurt to put a dashed line, a yellow line, with an arc that says fall radius, you know, so that they're not parked there. The site is the project is a fairly low intensity project, so that they visit the site once a month with technicians, and that there'll be obviously a periodic startup and maintenance of the generator, the emergency power generator. So there'll be some periodic noise during the day, more than likely, when that's necessary. And of course, when the power goes off, it'll jump in. And usually, when the power goes off, everything gets quieter, right? Because the TV's off in your house and everything else, so you'll hear it. But again, temporary issue. I think if they get confirmation of the noise level post-construction, I think we'd all feel more comfortable with that. But overall, it's a fairly low intensity use, and it's in a decent location. You know, it's not a perfect location, but it's not a bad location in my opinion. And it looks like they spent a lot of effort starting last August, from all the documentation they sent us to review, that they tried to find a location that worked. And there were quite a few sites that they looked at. It was a good table of a dozen sites, plus or minus, and this was the one that worked out. So, and it seems to be probably one of the better locations.
Yeah, I think to me, it's an appropriate location, and they did give a pretty good presentation, again, with a lot of information for you to review for us. So I was happy with that.
Chris, are you comfortable with this? You good?
That's all I have,
Okay,
sir.
so maybe some sort of a striping on the asphalt or something. So Attorney Klasnick, there was a lot that we went over this evening. Do you have any comments? It's my inclination to continue this and work through the comments by Ed Pesci and allow you the opportunity to respond and get those few things wrapped up for us. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I wanted to thank Mr. Pesci as well for undertaking his review and providing us with his comments. It's always very helpful to have that additional input. In regards to some of the comments, I guess I just did want to expound a little bit upon the selection of the location on the property. As I understand it, as Mr. Pesci has already pointed out, there are wetlands, so we certainly wanted to be as far as possible from the buffer, and I think that's something the Conservation Commission appreciated. We also looked at your bylaw requirements for the inland coastal wetlands, the protection area there. And it's a little difficult to discern from the actual zoning map where that is. There is a designated portion on this property, so we believe we were able to site outside of that. And in addition, the location, and this is, I think, something that was important to the Conservation Commission as well, there's an existing swing gate that allows access to that rear conservation restriction parcel. And one of the conditions that was included by the Conservation Commission in their de minimis determination was to make certain that we did not block or come into contact or in any way impede that area. So all those factors, I think, have played into choosing that particular location on the property. We also, if you look at the property itself, I don't know that that paved area is exactly linearly along the property line there. So what I think we were trying to do was to put in a corner where there would be the greatest distance, I think, from the existing paved area. So that was another factor that was considered in selecting that location. Where I think Mr. Pesci has acknowledged, your bylaw has that requirement of a setback from the property line of the height of the tower, and I think it's important to note from the engineer's letter, I mean, he's clear in the statement that these towers, if properly constructed and maintained, they don't fall over. So what we were trying to do in including that 63-foot design was to really try and address the bylaw requirements for the setback, as opposed to any actual concern about being in such close proximity to property. I mean, these towers are not unusually built, right next to buildings within much closer proximity, actually. So these are designed to a very specific standards, and I think Mr. Pesci would probably support that comment. So as far as the difficulty of moving it, it may seem as if that's a small matter, but obviously it would require, a complete redesign based upon that new location. And what we tried to do, as I said, is to balance all those factors to select the location that is being proposed. So I just wanted to provide that information to the board as we look at this further. And then, as Mr. Pesci indicated, the environmental sound assessment, I mean, we did undertake, I think, a fairly extensive review. We actually had someone go out and provide ambient measurements and then calculate the actual particulate levels. And those are always conservative estimates. So we're comfortable that based upon the study that was provided, that we would be fully compliant with the requirements as we outlined in that study. So I guess at this point, I just want to make sure we understand what the board would like us to do at this point.
So,
Thank you.
Madam Chair, through you, Mr. Klasnick, can you see the plan on the screen or not?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And I'm going to point to this for the board. So here's the swing gate that he's talking about. So you've got the distance, perhaps you go 5 feet on this side. So you got the distance from here to here that could be moved. Yes, the plans would have to be done, but there's no real strong amount of time, not a lot of time to do that. I mean, not a lot of time involved in just picking that equipment up, moving it to the right, whatever this 25 feet is, 30 feet right here, and not violate sounds like the the discussion that they had with the Conservation Commission. I mean, it wouldn't take much to show you a concept of that, and at least run it by the Conservation Commission to make sure that that's all set. That's a minor thing that could be done fairly quickly. That way, everybody knows whether that'll work or not, and if it does, then it's kind of the best of both worlds, right? We maintain the separation from the wetlands that is, you know, part of the whole design, yet we provide a little bit more separation from the residential abutters that you asked for and discussed in the field, it sounds like.
Yes, we did.
So, you know, even moving it 20 feet is not the end of the world in terms of changing the design plans. It's just, it's a very little amount of drafting that's involved in doing that. Go to the slide above, Andrew, if you would.
Ed, I don't want to change your thought process. So
Okay.
when we were out on the site, the actual location was identified maybe 17 feet plus or minus off the asphalt. So if you were to move that location as you're suggesting 20 some odd feet, are we running into it actually being on the asphalt or further away from the
No,
asphalt?
all I was gonna ask, all I was gonna propose is that they slide it, just laterally, slide it east.
Yeah, so then, okay.
Okay, and, I mean, it might get a foot closer to the asphalt, because it's not a perfect straight line, but you can see, but that's, to me, not that critical.
Okay.
But, I mean, if there's another technical reason that that can't happen, I certainly think you should consider it, but right now, I'm glad that we heard what the conditions or concerns are on behalf of the applicant, but I didn't see any reason why they couldn't accommodate at least part of the request.
Right, I think this board, that was one of the first questions that this board had is why that particular location? Is that the only location? And the answer, I believe, was conservation. So now you're offering up another solution. So I appreciate that and let the board take that information. So I think right now, Attorney Klasnick, we have what we have to just move forward and resolve the responses and questions from Ed, and your comments. We'll take those into consideration as well, but I'd like to take a poll of the board.
Can we just make sure they'll give
Sure.
us the extension for time?
Yeah, we'll do that as well, yeah. So, does the board feel that it is worthy for this applicant to make an attempt to relocate this location of this pole? I'm going to just poll Chris.
Meaning what?
As far as having this
Just so everybody's
applicant,
clear.
Shift it to the east,
have this applicant shift to the east, 20
the maximum amount feasible.
maximum amount feasible. I'd like your input, Ed.
If
I mean,
anything, you
Chris.
can work with these folks quickly, then sure.
Okay, Larry?
Yes, I'd like to see that.
Heidi, yes. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Mark? Brian?
Of course, it's for the people, not for the wetlands.
Right. So with that being said, Attorney Klasnick, I would like to see that happen, and the other points that Ed brought up. So I'd like to just bring this to the public and have their input, and then we have a long agenda still ahead of us this evening, so we will make a motion to close. And I want to make sure that we have our timing of 100 days, so Nancy, can you, if we go to leave this record open today, and we go to July 13th, we'll need an extension. Okay. So we'll need to figure that out, but are there any questions from the public? Sir, could you identify yourself for the record?
Again, Eric Kelly, Peter Scott.
Okay?
Madam Chairperson, I just want to let you know that I've been asking for a lease agreement for this for probably over a month. I just received it today, so I have not had a chance to review it. I don't know why it took so long. According to a quick review, this is lease agreement between the cell operator and the landowner was dated back in 2018, so this should have been readily available sooner than when I got it. In reviewing the files that I have received, there were numerous pictures taken of how this tower would look in different areas of town. One of the pictures was at 15 T Rock Garden. It showed a picture that was distant behind a tree. Upon further review of Google Maps, there's a rotary system further inlet, further into the property. And I'm trying to figure out why there wasn't a picture taken at that rotary to show that tower in a more clear view, especially those who are residing there. It just appears that the people taking the picture look like they're trying to be deceptive to the residents and the board of this town in regards to doing that. As well as where this was a lease agreement that was signed in 2018, just comes to my knowledge today, and a lot of these pictures were taken conveniently when the trees were in full bloom. I'm trying to figure out why there weren't pictures taken prior to this when the trees were completely leafless. At least that way, we all get a better look at what the cell tower looked like in the wintertime, especially around town, as they're showing pictures of what it would look like. But see, you don't know if there's residents right there would know if they could see the cell tower from where they live because everything's in full bloom, as well as other parts of town. I think the person that took the pictures, as well as the operator of the tower, which appears to be Verizon, clearly knew what they were doing. And once again, I believe that it looked like they would be trying to be deceptive to the town as well as the board. In reviewing and watching the meeting that was dated back, I believe, May 11th, there were some items that were talked about. I would like to see if I can get some answers from the attorney on this. What is considered a sufficient setback for the residential areas?
Bob, would you like to comment?
I would like to have their attorney answer that question.
You'd like their attorney to answer that question. Attorney Klasnick, will you reiterate the setback on the south side, I believe, is what he's referring to? Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry?
Would you reiterate the setback to the board and to the public on that south side from that cell tower? You've got 120.
My question
On the
was,
south side?
I think
To
we're,
the, yes, of course.
I think it was the
As
residential.
noted,
residential
as
side,
noted,
west side.
that property to the south is the one that's subject to the conservation restriction and held in common ownership with the Webster Square Shopping Center.
Okay,
So the relief, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I believe we're referring to the west side,
The residential side.
the residential. So we have the 12211 to the T-Rock Garden. We're looking for the setback.
Yes, the setback from the tower
I
is
have
80 feet from that. It satisfies all other dimensional setbacks as far as the distance of the ground equipment. So the relief we are requesting was from the tower setback of 120 feet. So the actual setback to that property line is currently located is 80 feet. And all the other equipment is well within the requirements and satisfies the file standards.
so is that setback based on the equipment or is it based on the tower itself?
Attorney
The
Klasnick?
only measurement that required relief was the setback for the tower. The equipment itself is a much greater distance. The tower is 80 feet, so the equipment is set right next to it, so it's approximately 80 feet as well from that particular property line.
And if I'm hearing it correctly, is the basin, their setback based on what the town bylaws are?
That's what
Okay.
the argument is.
What is considered close proximity to residential structures? What would you, why would you avoid these kind of locations?
I'm not sure if I completely understand the question, but just to describe the process that's gone through. What both Verizon Wireless and American Tower have done is, as I think Mr. Pesci has already noted, This is really a process that started perhaps 5, 6 years ago. And it starts with the RF engineer from Verizon Wireless identifying a need for a facility in a particular area. So then that's handed off to a site acquisition consultant. The site acquisition consultant goes through the area that's been designated by the RF engineer, trying to locate suitable properties. In this instance, after looking at numerous properties and spending literally years trying to secure a location, it was determined that the location at the Webster Square Shopping Center was really the only available and suitable location that would accommodate the facility, allow for some reasonable setbacks from existing residential structures, and also satisfy the RF requirements. So the proximity to the residential structures is really dictated by the ability to site the facility in a location. And there are times where the facilities are located right next to a residential structure. In this instance, we were able to satisfy over 122 feet from the Key Garden apartments. Also, the topography there, I think, is very useful in that the tower and the shopping center is set down at the bottom of the hill there, so there's even less visual impact from that perspective. So there isn't a set standard. It's simply driven by what's available and what's required to satisfy the RF requirements.
Okay, Eric?
Madam Chairperson, if it's possible, could this volume be turned up anymore?
I think were you having a hard time hearing him?
It's not, so this way, if he's in the room, it'd be a lot better.
Oh, I'm sure, but
I mean, I have to go back and review
these
the
are the
tape,
times.
so.
So it's my recommendation that we keep this hearing open.
All right,
So
so you
you'll
do
be
that?
able
All right.
to review every attachment, the lease as you just described, have time to do that. Town council has looked at it and the board does have it. We received it as well as late as today as well. So we are going to recommend that we continue this hearing and ask for an extension from the applicant. So you'll have an opportunity to have those answers.
All right, I do have more questions.
Well, we have a lot going on this evening. Is it possible for you to allow the board the discretion to give those to us in writing in an email? And we'll forward them to the attorney? Or is this something that you can wrap up fairly quickly?
I'm not gonna say, because it all comes down to his answers, and his answers seem to be pretty long on certain things,
So would
I
that
couldn't
make,
guarantee that this could be wrapped up quickly, is probably
Okay,
what you're thinking.
yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, I think for the benefit of the public and to make sure all your answers are spot on and we have a response to them, I think it would be best if you could list them out for the board and for the applicant, and we'll get to it. And the next hearing, I believe, is July 13th. So it gives the applicant some time and gives you some time to digest as well.
Well, the whole thing is that this thing's been kicked around so many times now.
Well, not really. We had one hearing, we had one hearing that we needed to,
Was it moved twice?
no, once, I believe, right? With
Yeah,
Ed?
twice.
Was it twice?
No.
No.
Just
We had-
once.
we had it once continued.
Just once, I believe, yes.
You'll be able to review his tape, the tapes you can.
I know,
have
but
as
the whole thing
well.
is that this is a,
It doesn't
in my
matter, I
opinion,
mean-
as a citizen of this town, in regards to the location of this, where they wanna put this tower, there's a lot of questions, and I appreciate the questions they asked as well as Mr. Pesci and all that, but, I have a lot of questions myself, and with due respect to you, Madam Chairperson, for the public good as well, I think instead of me sending my questions in ahead of time, you're better off serving to ask the applicant, if not now, then in the future. I will keep it in mind,
Okay, well, let's.
possibly
so we're-
send them in, but I'm not a big fan of doing that.
I understand that, but I do appreciate your ability to do that. So just making it clear, so the previous hearing that we saw was on May 11th, and then we went for a site review, site visit, and then we had Ed Pesci come on board to help us with questions that arose. So I'm just giving you a time
Right,
frame.
'cause I
So
believe-
this is the second hearing.
Second hearing, yes, but I believe it's been postponed once before.
That is correct. So
Yes,
we don't
that's
need
what I'm
to
getting
split
at.
hairs over that. But as far as right now, I really appreciate it if I could let the other members of the public speak. You've had the floor for a few minutes now. And
Well, that's what this is all about, isn't it?
it totally is. However, and one individual can't monopolize.
I'm not trying to
the board.
monopolize, the whole thing is that I.
Maybe that was
I
the
have
wrong
questions-
term.
I have questions
Okay.
regarding this appointment, at least I look at it as an appointment matter. I'm not trying to monopolize it in any fashion, or hold these people up. I'm not the one who's.
No, I
scheduling these things.
appreciate, let me be clear, I
5 minutes.
appreciate everything that any abutter or any citizen has to say to this board. But if we give the floor to one individual for a long period of time, the rest of us are here till 10 o'clock at night.
I understand that.
So if
Well,
you
the
have
only-
the ability, I would appreciate it if we could use this opportunity to take your notes, provide it in an email. We've been in COVID for a year now, and that has been the general rule of thumb, the way we've been working. We haven't been able to have this one-on-one, and I am really grateful to have this one-on-one. But if you would allow this board that leisure, I would appreciate it.
Well, even though COVID, you weren't one-on-one, you still have the
I
Zoom,
know.
people asking questions and all that.
Okay.
I just want to let it duly noted that I am not happy with this. I feel insulted by it. Yeah, but you are the Madam Chairperson. You make the decision.
So currently, why don't we do
that?
that? Why don't we do this? It's 7:55. If you can you pick the points that are most important to you?
They all are.
And okay. So I was going to give you an additional 5 minutes of the board's time and the public's time to go through your specific
I don't think that'll be enough
comments.
time and all that, so.
Then I think that we're best at an email, and I appreciate
I'll
your
consider the
ability.
email. If not, I'll come back the 13th of July.
Okay, and certainly see Nancy, and she can reach out to the board and to the applicant as well, and Ed if it needs to be, and myself. Are there any other?
Lynn, you should probably let Eric know that our board rules are 5 minutes.
I think he probably knows.
I
Our-
didn't hear Mr. Murphy.
Could you clarify?
We have, our board rules are 5 minutes for the public.
I did not know that. It's not stated, but the whole thing is
It
that once
is,
again, you're shutting out the public, especially in important matters like these, especially someone like myself that does their best to be thorough on these matters. And 5 minutes, especially where you have an attorney or anybody that gives a long answer to a question, it could absorb that 5 minutes very quickly. So I think that would be an unfair, it is an unfair rule to the general public as well.
Okay, so if you'd like to just have a finishing statement, and then we will move to another.
This is my finishing statement.
Okay,
That's where we
all right.
left it at, you know, so.
We'll hear from you again on July 13th, and I hope to hear from you in an email or some other correspondence. Are there any other questions from the public in regards to this particular hearing?
Is this a 5G tower? Did I ask that?
I thought it was.
The documentation I read, Madam Chair, referenced 4G. I would imagine in the future it may be part of the 5G network, but that's a question for American Tower.
Attorney Klasnick, do you have the response? Is this have the capability of a 5G? Is it currently 4G? What are we looking at?
Current configuration, as I understand it, is 4G LTE design for this location. The equipment that has been specified in the analysis that has been provided by Verizon Wireless. And Keith Valente, who's, I think, still on, if I'm not correct, he can certainly correct me, but that's my understanding.
Could we get the audience member's name and address for the record?
Yes.
Sure. Robert Dubana, 10 Setauket Avenue.
What was it? Robert, I'm sorry.
Dubana.
Dubana?
D-I-B-O-N-A.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, is that answer accurate?
He's trying to unmute
I can
himself.
see.
I'm sorry?
Is that answer accurate by Attorney Klasnick? The 4G versus, it is a 4G
That
tower?
would be to Keith Valente, if he's, Keith, can you just confirm that?
Yes, good evening. My understanding is the proposed equipment for Verizon is the 4G. The analysis we prepared in the RF report is related to their 4G LTE network.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Alrighty, so Attorney Klasnick, would you reach out, or Nancy will reach out to you for the extension? And I'm going to ask the board to continue this hearing to July 13th, 6:30 certain. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Heidi Conway. All those in favor? Chris Felisos?
Aye.
Larry Keane?
Aye.
Heidi Conway?
Aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye. Mark Stiles?
Aye.
And Brian Murphy?
Aye.
Aye. So we are continued till July 13th. And Nancy, will you work with the public and make sure that he has everything he needs? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you very much to the board and Mr. Deschanel.
Thank you. Okay, folks, it's currently 8 o'clock. Do we need a 5-minute recess, or do you want to keep moving forward?
I keep
Keep
going.
going. That took a lot longer.
Did you want to break?
No, I think we should just.
It took a lot longer. Okay. Okay. So we have case 2141. Are you recusing
Diane
yourself?
said.
Again.
So we have 25 Secaunet Avenue, and this is a continued hearing from, I believe it was
Is John
June
Whitten
8th.
available or no?
I'm sorry?
John Whitten available for the summit, or are we have to?
Paul's on this.
No, he's not on that.
Yes, he's not on, okay.
Why don't you just leave him?
I don't know. Bob, you just stepped out for a second. Alrighty.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ed. Nice
to see
We
you,
Ed.
appreciate it. Okay. Whoops.
Just to let you know, Nick brought the hard copies of the plan.
He did.
Oh,
Hard
okay.
copies.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Does the public have a chance to see?
There's 2 there.
Thank you.
Are these dated as of
Thank you.
today?
These are not. These are, they should have a revision block on them.
They have a
but I don't-
revision block.
I don't see one on it, to be honest.
Okay, so board members, we need to make a note that this is a revision of today's date. Do you see it somewhere?
Okay, prepared my plan.
And has the public had the opportunity to see this revision?
Yeah, I had it this afternoon, Nancy, thanks for sending it, but I didn't have a lot of time to review it, so I'll speak later, I guess.
I think so. We're gonna just give them the benefit of the doubt and take, usually this board requires more, timely way to receive their information, so I wanna make that clear.
Yes, we do apologize for that. We were caught in a little bit of a pickle, not receiving all comments until around noon on Thursday.
Okay,
So I do apologize for not preparing an entire
okay,
typical review packet for you as you would likely expect from us.
okay. I did have a chance to go through this a little bit with our building commissioner this afternoon. And I noticed that in an email, there was a response to changing the request for the variances, which
Yes.
is something that I think that we need to reiterate and go through the actual site plan and make sure the board is clear. So we're looking at 16.1, And then maybe Andrew can explain what this applicant has done to eliminate that side variance.
We can let Nick, right?
Or let
Yeah,
Nick.
let them do their
Let
I was
job.
gonna say, I didn't come here for nothing, did I?
Yeah, just, oh, certainly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if you maybe just put it against the heater, I forget what the
Absolutely.
zero by.
Yeah, I didn't realize, you know, I'll swing to the complete other side if that works for everybody. Get it right out of the way, except for those that want to see it.
Just make sure it's not in the,
No, that actually does look like the old one. I think she is correct.
Oh, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry.
No, sir.
so what you just gave us, I am just writing June 22nd on it, on these.
I apologize for that. Thank you.
And then we'll need to make sure for the record that that's, this has 619.
That one does.
A2 does.
The architectural is
A1.
my,
A1, A2, and A3 have a date of 619 for the record. And sheet 1 of 1 plot plan for the addition is deficient in that legend, so that needs to be June 22nd. All righty, Nick, let's hear what you've done.
To get a hold of the plan. If you'd like, I can begin speaking though.
We don't have the current one.
You don't have?
On this computer.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, regardless, so what we've done, again, I apologize for not actually preparing an entire packet to respond to all of the abutter comments as we would typically do for you. But what we have done is addressed what we believe to be the core issues in the revisions that we've provided in both an updated architectural and site plan. For starters, we've removed the 3D renderings that did not show, or rather, I'm sorry, did show a full kitchen when in fact the only thing proposed was a wet bar. And as well as that, we have downsized the stairwell that is shown 3.5 feet wide on the northeast side of the structure. We've brought that down to 3 feet in width to bring us within the 2-foot projection allowable setback, into the setback. Therefore, we've removed the need for the variance. We've also noticed that we could apply that to the front request as well, as far as the overhang over the front door there. So we have essentially removed both variances by thinning out the stairwell and are really now just requesting the special permit request for modifying a pre-existing non-conforming structure on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The pre-existing nature of the structure is that it is too close, according to the current regulations, on the southwest side of the house. That is the opposite side of the structure from which we are proposing the addition. That's about all that we have changed, so I'll stop there for any comments and questions, any and all.
Well,
Is the upper deck in the area that's replacing the 2 sheds still at 12.5 feet from the side lot line?
No, it's 13.1. Here's the.
Did you not get a fresh copy? I'm sorry. I think that's
He
just on the
wasn't
corner.
written off.
Closer than the shed? It's 3.5?
Yes.
Is there some reason why that can't go somewhere else on the structure? Because I don't think I agree with you that you don't need a variance.
Well, the bylaw that is referenced on that plan, I believe, states that all open decks and steps above 4 feet are permitted to be 2 feet into the setback as a projection, and anything under 4 feet in height is actually permitted to go half the distance into the setback as a projection. form over there?
Is that a highlighter?
So the rails going up the deck would be, your suggestion would be actually on the treads themselves?
Yes.
Somebody else needs a highlighter. I need to make it clear.
So, on the southeast side of the staircase, what at least I read is the staircase, you've got now, this is the old plan, that's 12.6, all right? You've taken that out 7 inches, you're now 13.1.
Correct.
As I look at the new plan, your measurement from the lot line to the building is still 14.8 southeast side. Right?
That 14.8 is to the shed that is existing.
Okay, my mistake.
No problem.
Sheds are
This
allowed
here.
to be 10 feet long.
Yeah, no, I'm misreading the plan, that's all. Thought that was to the building.
Structures have to be 15.
So the building envelope on that same side is at 16.1 with a 15 minimum, so it's no more non-conforming, with the 3 feet getting you 1 foot. Okay, so I'm with you with that. Removing the shed. The rear, the envelope, for the building envelope off the rear, you need 30 feet, and you're proposing 32. That's correct. You have a patio you're proposing to remove, and you're working with, within the building envelope at 28.8 on the south side, when you have 15 minimum. So all of this stuff goes away. The bulkhead is removed.
The bulkhead on the existing house, you mean?
Yeah, all of that's going away.
I don't believe the bulkhead is going to be removed.
Okay.
That is their access to the cellar and is, should not be in the way for construction.
I'm just trying to identify what is being proposed and what is existing.
Yep, removed, that's going away, because there's a shed,
Oh, this is what,
yeah, so this basically is pretty much.
so it's just going down the bulkhead right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the stairs come down, and this is just going down.
Yep. I'm sorry?
So the double line going back 28 feet is the proposed addition,
Correct, those would be the foundation walls, so to speak.
It's supposed to be minimum.
and then,
So you know right where the roof changes.
so can you come up here and make sure I've got this
Absolutely.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is your current,
I can read upside down.
no, that's all
No
right.
worries. Yes, what you have highlighted would be the proposed structure.
Right, everybody?
I've got it now.
Yep.
Okay. And Andrew will. Okay. So the public last time made comments, numerous comments on your zoning data. Has that been resolved?
Yes.
Any further questions from the board?
Was Attorney Galvin satisfied with the variance?
He doesn't need a variance now.
Okay.
So you agree we're not 2 feet in?
You can be 2 feet in.
Okay.
At the front, I never thought required a variance. I thought that was only a special permit. I thought on the side it did, but as configured, it is not.
So there's no longer a request for a variance before us?
It's just a special permit.
And this is on town sewerage. And the abutters commented on the questioning over a single family versus that not being a single family, and this is not in front of us for an accessory apartment, it's only in front of us for an addition. Right, what else?
Knowing what the concerns are, can we
I think
potentially
we need to,
condition?
I think we need to
for-
work through that. But I just want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to address these changes and that you are here in the flesh to respond to each of those
Yes.
concerns, okay? So,
Real quick, pretty much what we're dealing with is pretty much a non-conforming lot. That's really the issue here, correct?
Yes,
At
and
this point.
and a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The
Pre-existing
house is too
non-conforming.
close to the
Yep.
southwesterly lot minority.
Okay.
so if it was to come back in front of this board, it doesn't meet the requirements for this zone, is that correct? As far as an accessory apartment? Doesn't have the square
Oh,
footage?
yeah, I don't believe it has the square footage
Okay,
required for an
that's how I
accessory apartment.
understood it, I didn't double check.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that is the case.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? We've all had a chance to look at it, okay. Any questions from the public or comments? Hello, please identify yourself again
My
for the
name is
record.
Wayne Egan. I am an attorney for Whitman, and I'm here on behalf of Brian and Susan Donlin, who are the abutters at 29 Secaucus Ave. First, I'd like to apologize to Grady for having a late response. I didn't realize I was on a deadline. So,
Life happens.
do I need to get closer or anything? I'm talking
I
fairly
think
loud.
that your voice is pretty clear, I think we'll be
Okay.
okay. So stay comfortable and we'll work through it.
So, do we get the architectural, we could talk about them actually, because I don't think they have a picture of them.
Sure.
So, you know, obviously, one of the things I mentioned in my letter of June 17th, and on page 2, I go over the 10 conditions that are required to be met to expand the non-conforming use for the special permit under section 12, but also those contain section 10. The beginning of that paragraph only mentions section 10, so please keep that in mind when you're reading through that. And it appeared to me when I took a quick look at the architectural plans that the only thing was taken out was the stove. Is that correct?
I believe all of the 3D renderings were taken out because they were just causing confusion because they were in conflict with what was shown on the actual drawings themselves.
All right, can you explain
So,
that,
yes.
just so I understand it?
We took out the 3D renderings because they did not match what was shown on the plan. The plan itself was not modified. It still and did only show the wet bar. There is, as you can clearly see, there are no countertops or stove or any of that stuff that was in the 3D rendering.
Is this the
shown on
updated
the plan.
plan we're looking at right now?
I have a hard copy of the hard one if you'd like.
Sure. Because prior to, there was a stove on the plan.
Only on the 3D rendering, not on the plan.
Okay,
So Attorney Egan, so I'd like you to address the board and then
Okay, I'm sorry.
we'll, I
apologize.
appreciate the informality of it, but we are, yes, so,
So, you changed
So we can- yeah.
3D drawing, so I would like the opportunity to take a better look at that.
Absolutely.
And update my letter of June 17th, and we can keep the record open,
okay.
if that's appropriate. I don't know if you need town council on
Okay.
that, but, you know, just looking at it originally today, you know, in my mind, it was, the stove was just taken out, that, if that's the only thing that was changed, what's to prevent them from putting a stove in later? I know that there'd be a building inspector issue with that as far as compliance, but obviously the neighbors are concerned that they don't want this to be a completely separate unit at some point. Obviously, there's multiple bedrooms there. Under the conditions of section 12, they talk about traffic and parking. I don't think those issues have been addressed either. And obviously, the key condition in section 12 is the effect on the neighborhood, the feeling of the neighbors. You have both the butters here opposing this. You have at least about one other set of neighbors here that have an issue with this, that the size of this addition, you're talking another 2,200 area, 2,200 square feet of finished space going on to, I believe it was an existing unit that was like 1,700. And that is the biggest building on the street. So you're gonna put on these small lots on the small street, this very large addition. That's gonna, which potentially could have another family unit living there. I believe, I heard that right now, it could be a son and a daughter-in-law and a child living there. So, I mean, that's all well and good, but it's gonna affect the neighborhood. Traffic, congestion, just those little lots, putting that size of the building up there definitely affects the integrity and character of that street.
Okay, so
And-
this particular, I don't want to, but this particular lot does have the building envelope to support it. It has more land than the adjacent lots. So what's your response to that?
It's still a street of small lots,
Okay.
if you look at that.
All right.
And it's still gonna change the character of the street.
Okay.
Even though they have the square footage, they're still a non-conforming lot. And to put this large addition on there, it's gonna affect the character. It's affecting the neighbors. The neighborhood is not happy with this. And I think that's a key element of having to meet this condition in order to issue this permit expanding this non-conforming use. And I'll follow up in writing with all of this.
Okay.
I'm just trying to speak quickly.
Yeah, I
And I
understand.
know,
I
you know, as far as
appreciate
the
it.
stove being removed, that was something that, it's not here now, but Mr. Murphy was part of the discussion prior to. He mentioned that's all you have to do is remove the stove, to get this in compliance. So I'm not sure if he has an opinion on that. So-
Well, he's recused, so I can't ask him that question.
Oh, he's recused?
He's recused. He's recused himself. For whatever reasons, not up for this board to determine what those reasons are. He is now not a voting member on this. So, are there any, I don't want to,
I mean, should he recuse himself prior to the beginning of the deliberation at the last meeting, or?
I don't know what happened between last meeting and this meeting that he uncovered that he had a conflict with. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. Those are my basic questions. Obviously, the size of the building, the fact that this could still become a functional kitchen. There's a dining area or on the 3D rendering. Is there still a dining area on the plans? Or?
I'm sorry.
All the 3D renderings have been removed as they were clearly causing confusion.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I will follow up in writing.
Okay.
If the board could just provide me a date certain, then I could make sure I have it to you.
Okay, I just want to make sure with the board and that there's no other comments that need to be addressed. And then whether or not we should close it or keep it open. I'll take your recommendation. Yes, Ms. Davis?
Hi, Jacqueline Davis, 19 Secundit Ave. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Thanks to Nancy and Andrew for sending over the plans. All my comments were not addressed, but before I go into them, I'd like to make one statement that Mr. Murphy last week made two comments. Remove the stove in the renderings and reduce the stair width by a half a foot, and these plans don't need these. So the fact today that now he's recused himself is very suspicious. But with that being stated, I'll move on. There are numerous errors on these plans that were stamped by Mr. Grady, including the math on the zoning data table. So the maximum building height, the plans that have been removed, that still hasn't been updated. The old sheets were removed and I can't tell you what the new heights are. The maximum building coverage and the minimum open space, those numbers should total 8,625. Why are they off by 133 and 121 square feet? Where is this additional space that we're coming up with? To determine the maximum building coverage of the existing lot should only include the existing footprint of the existing home, which is 22 feet by 40 feet 2 inches, which is around 883 square feet. I'd like to know where the 1,415 square feet is coming from. I still have questions on the property information from the plans listed in the notes. As provided last week, the Town of Mansfield ArcGIS information shows discrepancies in the front area of the property. Last week I went through all of my variance notes, which I can't go through today, seeing that those are null and void. So, to Mr. Grady's comments, his information, one shed's being demolished, or 2 sheds are being demolished. The actual response is 1 is being demolished, 1's been relocated. The update should need to be made that the proposed upper deck is not 12.6 feet off the left lot line, it's now 13.1.
I think that is correct.
But not in the, there was no actual forms submitted, it was just plans.
Okay, I hear you.
So, the forms that we can review and comment on are the special permit. So 305-10.12, comment 1, that it's still gonna be a residential unit after. Comment 2, it's essential and desirable as to why. It's a current single-family use and is also proposed as that. I'd like additional information on why is it essential and desirable. That said, that this will not create undue traffic congestion, and as stated by the attorney previously, there's currently, or normally a school bus, a truck, and an SUV parked on the lot. The plans show what would be a garage space. That is not actually the case because the first floor has a structural beam, so the spacing from the structural beam to the front of the, what is the garage opening, is 15 feet. A small compact car is minimum 6 feet. So no cars will be allowed to use this garage. So if there are additional residents and the cars and vehicles I mentioned already parking on the lot, we'll need to find other parking in the area. Question 4, it says a proposed increase in bedrooms. I'd like it noted that it's an increase of 2 bedrooms, 1 in the primary residence and 1 in the future residence. An increase in a new bathroom and an addition of a washer and dryer closet. So there'll be 2 on the property. The information also said that there's been there's been discussion with the Public Works, and in the past 2 weeks I've seen no documentation or a better response saying what outreach has been done. 5, any special regulations set forth by Article 12, so 305-12.02, have these plans been reviewed by the planning board? I haven't heard any comment from Greg, the town planner, to see his comments on the plans. And then that also 305-8.01, the parking spaces per unit. So we can go into talking about the reasons that this will impact the community and our neighborhood. We've all been residents there. My family's owned the house for over 50 years. But please explain why this addition needs to be larger than the existing structure when all that's shown is a garage, a workshop, 1 bedroom, and a wet bar. And additional question for comment 9. I'd like an explanation as why this is considered an old neighborhood. I think that the style, especially of this town, it's a cottage town. It's a seaside area, and with that, you're allowing these homes to be built. We are not in the flood zone. We are not in the 500-year flood zone. We are not in a coastal zone. There's no point in, or no need to have this structure elevated. So to have these large, massive homes, it reminds me of the Jersey Shore. We're maximizing all the space on these lots to get bigger home or potentially more rental value. And then the last one is appropriate off-street parking and residential lighting exists and will not be modified. And I'd like clarification to that as well.
If I can just follow up on her points.
Please.
As Ms. Davis is so happy put, and I stated in my letter, which I will reiterate if the board gives me the opportunity based on the information today, is that all 10 requirements in section 10 must be satisfied in order to issue a special permit expanding the non-conforming use. There's not sufficient facts in the applicant's petition or their requested finding of fact or in the plans or in the information provided today to allow the board to reach that finding that all these conditions were satisfied. And I'll go into greater detail. It's going to be very similar to what I've already stated in my letter and what I've said today.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am, identify yourself for the record, please.
I'm the applicant, Donna Martinowski, and I live at 25 Hunter Ave. I'd like to make some comments.
Absolutely, let us hear what you have to say.
I'm gonna come up here.
Sure, have a
Do you
seat.
have my stuff, right? Thank you.
Did you send a letter or an email, or
Yes,
what are you
I sent
referring
it.
to?
Probably the email.
Yeah, while they're working on that, would you, go ahead,
Can
ask
you
your question.
clarify the driveway? Can you just kind of show us where it is and comment on the driveway situation?
Sure. Yeah. You scroll up just a little bit.
My pictures will show that better.
So actually, it's kind of cut off here, but the driveway area right now comes in right off on the, right near the retaining wall here at the bend, and comes straight up along, right up to right here. This dashed line here is the edge of pavement line, so you can see it runs out along to the edge of this retaining wall and then runs back out. And it kind of arcs just a little bit to come back to the entrance.
How many off-street parking spaces?
Looks like about
How many bedrooms total when this is done?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
4 total bedrooms when this is done in the house?
I have to refer to the architecturals on that. I don't know that one off the top of my head. 4? 4. It says 4. I'll double check stuff.
So one of the abutters commented on the door that enters off as it wasn't a garage. It's just a door?
As you know, my husband has a motorcycle that he works on a lot, and he's going to be retiring. This will be his garage area.
All right, thank you.
The architectural does reflect 5.
5.
Did you clarify the frontage at 75 feet?
I can actually very briefly respond to very many of, I'm sorry I don't recall any of them. I can respond to very many of your comments very briefly if you'd like.
Okay.
I'll start with that one. Yes, the frontage and the lot depth have been corrected to 75 and 115, as is also reflected on the distances shown on the property line labels on the actual plan itself. Regarding the building height, I have actually placed the definition in your bylaws on my plan for building height and shown my math to reflect my calculations. I understand that it is a little strange that the building height is existing at 25.3 and is dropping to 24.7, but based on the way that that number is calculated, it is based off of average finished grade around the entire structure. So I've placed spot grades on the plan to demonstrate what those average finished grades about 6 feet off the faces of the house are, and I've actually doubled them over in my calculation side and presented all of that math for everybody to see very clearly. As far as the open space calculation, that also has a different definition that I have available. I do have a copy of the zoning bylaws, but I'm not going to bother to fetch it unless somebody would like me to explicitly bring that out. That open space calculation is not a direct inverse of the building coverage or any other coverage calculation in the bylaw. It differs and has a very specific way of being calculated based off of obstructions to the sky, I believe was one of the phrases in that definition. And that is how I've come to that calculation. As far as the building coverage, same deal. Anything with a roof and assemblage of materials in a roof that would provide shelter is considered a building or a structure, and that is included in the building coverage calculation. That is how I've come to the numbers proposed. I would also like to note at that point, we are only proposing 22.2% lot coverage or building coverage of the lot, and we are allowed 40%. As far as, I'm going to skip over the plans comment, but I'll come back to the bearing and distance question. The frontage I already mentioned, and as far as the forms go, I did mention at the beginning that we did not have ample time to prepare the typical package of paper documents that would specifically address each and every one of your comments in writing for you, item by item. So I do apologize for not having the time to do that for you. As far as the traffic concerns, it's a residential area with not much traffic, quite frankly. I can't speak to that one much more. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I won't try to. As far as the DPW and the increase in bedroom count, I have personally called. I don't have anything to prove it, But I have called and asked what the issue was as far as adding bedrooms. They said there was none, and they would just tally it on the next assessment, and that there was no issue with that. As far as the plan comment goes and the bearings and distances, it was submitted. This is here a copy of Plan Book 3, page 600. There is one bearing that doesn't even go to seconds. It's only degrees and minutes, as this was a very, very old plan. Actually, there's another one on Ocean Street. I apologize. There are 2 bearings on this whole plan. Obviously, that makes it difficult to figure out what the true bearings and distances of this are. However, and I don't have a copy of it right now in paper, please excuse me for that. But if you were to look at the secondary plan reference, Plan Book N, page 33, that shows the taking of Secana Avenue by what I believe was the town of Marshfield. I may be incorrect in that statement, but it was a taking nonetheless by a government entity that increased the width of Secana Avenue from what I think was 33 feet to 40 feet in width. And that plan does clearly show bearings and distances, and from that plan, we have related our current bearings and distances as shown.
Okay. Any comments from the board? There's a lot.
Did the applicant have something that she wanted to say?
Yeah, you were
As
headed-
long as he's done with Jackie's figures.
The bottom line with that, this current engineered plan is correct and accurate.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're saying.
To the best of your
Yep.
knowledge,
Yes, sir.
plus or
Yes, ma'am.
minus. So,
Do you have any of my pictures that I sent in?
Nancy's trying to get them right
Oh,
now.
okay.
We don't have them on this computer.
Okay. The complaint about the traffic, I don't get. I'm still living there. What's more traffic? I don't get it. The complaint about the bus, do they actually know that I'll be driving a bus? They don't know. They're making all these accusations that are very personal for them. But as these pictures will show, I have plenty of parking. I have 7 parking spots in the driveway. I added, oh, here we go, good. Those are all my on-street parking.
These are the ones you sent in today, correct?
Yes. This is my on-street parking. That's where, yes, I do park my bus in the daytime. I park my bus in my yard at night. It's off the road. But, you know, I might not be doing that with this addition.
On-street
They don't
parking?
know. See my extra? I put that in for when I had the bus.
On-street parking common there?
Yes, they have it themselves. You can keep going here. This is what they think is going to be better for the neighborhood. Do you see the house in the back also? That's pretty big too. There are many, I think you guys know there's many big houses. This picture, the red squares are the sheds, and I took off also 2 decks, a bottom deck and a top deck, L-shaped on the back of the house.
That previous photo was the side of your house,
Previous to all
correct?
this, yes. Well, so in the red is what I've removed, and in the purple is what I'm building. See what I mean? It's not all that much more. And to look at something like that compared to what it was before, that picture, I believe, it does make it look very big. I don't know why, but I fit in my envelope. That's being built down the street too. Whether it's fitting in their lifestyle or not, I'm sorry, it's fitting in my envelope, and I think I should have the chance to build just like everybody else. There's not all small cottages in town. They're trying to conform the neighborhood into a cottage area, which it was, yes, but they're not conforming to the town. The town is growing.
Not that it matters, just curious, how long have you lived there?
50 years.
50?
In that house? Yep. So I
lived there 52 years.
You haven't been there that long, maybe you haven't, but whatever. They bought it from Bessie Wright's.
Bessie Wright.
So, I don't,
I think the concern that I'm hearing is that you're potentially setting yourself up for a
accessory apartment or even a two-family home, right?
No, I'm not.
So if we were to approve this and added a condition that it had to remain a single-family home enforced by the zoning officer, you'd be okay with that?
Yes, I would.
So, Attorney Egan has requested an opportunity to get his information in a response. Is the board comfortable keeping this record open and allowing that to occur?
I am, but we should set some deadlines as to when these things are submitted, so we don't have to do the same thing again. So if the abutters have things that need to be submitted, July 1st, and then that gives 7 days for the applicant to respond, and then we all have 7 days to look at it before the 13th, so.
I think that's a great
To come back at the next date and have a battery of questions again.
We've spent a lot of time in this. Time is of the essence, I'm sure with you as well.
Yeah, because with COVID, I've been working on this for a really long time, and with every breath I take, my building materials go up and up.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll go the other way. Maybe this delay will save you money.
Ma'am,
What?
do you have I have one more comment from the
I
public?
was just wondering the definition of two-family or second-family homes. So, Tony, you've said no, that this is just a single.
My family.
Okay.
My
okay,
family.
Okay, so you understand why we would think it's two-family though, right?
No, not really. I don't. But do you?
We should just keep, you guys
I
just
think
go
that
through
you're
the-
going to work with
yeah.
the board, and the abutters will work with the board as well. And I think we have other hearings this evening, so I'd like Attorney Egan, and if you would,
Jackie.
Ms. Davis, if you could, if you have, do you have another
I just
question?
have one other, so you said that there could be conditions put into this, that there can't be, an additional use. Like, what would those conditions be? I know last week Mr. Murphy said no stove, but is that full-size refrigerators and appliances? What other conditions would you limit? Or would you add to the no decks?
Right now, I think this board is going to deliberate, and then I'm not going to say one way or the other what those conditions would be, or Mark has made a suggestion. He's one vote, so we'll take those suggestions in order as we get them. But we're listening to all of the abutters and, of course, the applicant, and we have some background. This board has some background.
I can shed a little light on that.
Yeah.
So a dwelling unit, defined by the building code, is a unit that provides permanent provisions for sleeping, eating, cooking, living, and sanitary use. So that's a bathroom, a laundry room, a kitchen, an eating area, a living area, a sleeping area. If one or more of those elements that are permanent provisions are removed or not implemented, it's not considered a dwelling by building code standards. And those are the definitions that the zoning code falls back on. So that's why when they say don't put a stove in there, it's actually more than that. They can't put even gas or an electric outlet for that stove in there at the time of construction. Because if they put that in there, then that's a permanent provision that's there so that they could install a unit. So those are the types of things that we won't allow. We won't allow them to put the gas in or an outlet designed for an electric stove in that unit. So then they would have to pull a building permit to get that gas or electric added there in the future. And we would have to allow that, and obviously it wouldn't be allowed if it didn't meet one of the conditions.
But it's typically not commonplace for this board to condition that because it's taken care of in the building department. So we don't typically do that. Okay, all right. So with your suggestion, I'd like to make some recommendations that we do continue this hearing. Nancy, July 13th, giving the public the ability to respond. So if Attorney Egan and Ms. Davis could formulate the final responses to what's happened this evening.
In addition to what was mentioned tonight?
In addition to, and have that available for Nancy, so tonight's 22nd, by a week from now, giving the applicant another week to address your concerns, and then giving the board time to formulate their,
Yeah, that gives them.
right?
Yep. So the 29th and then the 6th.
The
I'll persevere, and
6th
then
for
we're here
Nick,
for the 13th.
for Nick and the applicant to respond, and then get to Nancy, and then disseminate it to the board for our hearing on July 13th. Okay, Nancy, are you with me on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we've exhausted this for this evening, and we still have a lot more to go. So I appreciate everybody's patience in this matter. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
So I'd like to make a motion to continue this case, 2141 to July 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Chris?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Lynn Fiddler, aye. Mark Stiles?
Aye.
Aye. Continue to July 13th. Thank you. One text Mark.
Have a good
I
night.
mean,
You're
text
welcome.
Brian. Do we need to
They
take
don't see
a
them working.
quick?
No, let's push it.
I want to keep going.
Let's push it.
Thank you. Okay.
Is this the other one?
All right. Done that, done that. So, we are working on case 21-45. Hi, Brian. Richard Doyle, which is 88 Marginal Street. Then we'll go to 2146, which is 32 Surf Avenue. And finally finish up with 21-44. It is currently 8:46, and that took a lot longer than expected, so I apologize to our folks zooming in and to our board and public. We have the applicant here for case 2145, 88 Marginal Street. Hello, and there you are. So I'm going to just read this into the record, and then
Richard
we'll.
Doyle, owner of 88 Marginal Street.
Okay, let me read it into the record, and then you're going to give us your project, okay? So, 2146, Brian O'Donnell, the petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code.
Marginal Street?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry.
She's losing it.
Oh, no, I should stand up and do the stretchies. 2145, Richard Doyle, I apologize. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to create an 8-foot by 21-foot deck extension on the property located at 88 Marginal Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel M0605-01 and is located in the R3 zoning district. And I apologize that you had to wait all this time, but you probably learned a few things in that process. Okay.
What not to say.
What not to say? Yeah. Okay. No, I think we're all doing okay. So you'll see what we have in front of us. If you wouldn't mind explaining your process.
Okay. What I intend to do is just follow the ZBA Form 2 for the most part, but I did bring some pictures along with, a picture, along with the sketch behind it. I would say I apologize for the pictures. It's easy to say I ran out of ink.
All right.
So
Well,
I
we can live with that.
got color ink, I should say.
Okay.
I don't need one over here. I'll just.
Do we have enough people if I step out on this one?
Yeah.
Just because it's my street.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's why I brought it, such as it is. What I'm requesting is the extension of the deck, and it just falls right along by the windows, 8 foot out, fall in that exact line that you see in the picture. And again, if there's any doubt, the sketch right, the second page shows you sketch-wise what the picture shows you, so taking the two together. Any questions that part? Okay, so what I said I'd do is follow a few of the points on the Form 2. And starting with number 2, I want to add to that comment. But we're saying the use of deck is currently limited to the maximum of 7 people, capacity limited, and the key here is by the swing of the doors, they both swing into the deck. And when you put the people there, what I want to add, if you notice that I might be over 75, I might be over 80, which means, and so is my wife. What shows up, what you didn't do when you originally were doing, is that your mobility does change. So when we have we both had walkers at one time or another, and when you put the furniture there too, you have a tripping hazard, which we managed to do. So by putting this addition on, it spaces out the furniture and makes the safety hazard go away. And to me, it's pretty straightforward. Just follow the the line of the house, the line of the deck, and move the stairway again as a part of the, remove some of the safety hazard that is currently we're dealing with. Never mind that we're a large family. If you know the property, it's a good size, but that's so we can all be there when we want to at one time. Okay, that's number 2. Going on to number 4.
Can I just stop? So, is the actual, is it an 8 by 21 or a 12 by 6?
Oh, the 12 by
16?
6
I'm a little,
exists.
okay.
The addition is 8 by 21 along the side of the house there.
This is existing, yeah, that's what's proposed, new set of stairs down.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. Yep, I'm with you.
Okay.
Just to be clear, can I,
Yeah.
the agenda says we're dealing with a special permit, the application says variance. This is a special permit, right?
It is a special permit.
Okay.
The point of number 4 is what we're doing will have no impact on anyone. The water, the wetlands, we've already been with the Conservation Commission, they've signed off. There's no impact on anything, parking and so forth. So it's just straightforward in my estimation. You have to me, I can't see any side negative effect. And last thing is simply, the proposed extension continues the existing deck line, so aesthetically, I don't even think it'll be noticeable from what you see today and what you see once we put the deck out. It's just 8 feet out, following the house line. And let's see, neighbor-wise, no effect. We got a big open yard behind us and so forth. So to me, it's, any questions?
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Andrew, you're all set with us too. Yep. Any questions from the public? Again, if you're zooming in, you need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Alrighty. I'd like to make a motion to close this hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Larry Keane. All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Lynn, aye. Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
So this meeting is now closed. I'd like to make a motion to grant this special permit. There's no sheds to, right? Go back to the site plan, please. That's okay. Okay. It's on the flood zone. Acknowledge, so we're okay, so we're going to acknowledge that the board is okay with items 1 through 10 of our special permit by so granting this special permit. I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit for 88 Marginal Street. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
Thank you, Larry. Chris?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Lynn Fiddler? Aye. Mark Stiles.
Aye.
And Brian Murphy.
Aye.
So you have a vote of 5-0, and you're all set, and you're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Appreciate
staying
it.
with us. Showing up early. and-
Educational.
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty.
We'll get moving on the permit tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, that's the next step. I don't want to start too soon.
Don't want jinx it.
Yeah.
I know it's already in the system, so.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Case 2146, do we have the applicant?
Oh, no, Frank.
That's Dick Rockwood. You guys hear me?
I can hear you, thank you. I'm going to read this into the record and then we'll get started. So we have case 2146, Brian O'Donnell. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-10.12 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to raise the existing dwelling, constructing new 52-foot by 30-foot, 2.5-story house on the property located at 32 Surf Avenue, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L1005-01 and is located in an R3 zoning district. So, we'll alternate back. So Chris, you'll take, or Larry, why don't you take this vote and then Chris will take the next vote?
Yeah, that's fine.
Does it make sense to you? Okay. So, Dick, would you mind sharing your thoughts on this project?
Yes, we have an existing one-story structure there. The O'Donnells have owned the house, I believe, for about 8 years. They are planning to move there, make it a permanent residence. The house is located in an elevation AE9 flood zone, and we are putting a brand new structure there. You have the Stenbeck and Taylor plan, if Andrew could bring that up. So we are putting a 2.5-story house in. We have a garage drive-in underneath. We are in the flood zone, but we're allowed to use that underneath portion of the house for parking, entrance, and storage, which is what we are doing. It's not a habitable space. So above that, we have our 2.5 stories, and I'm still within my overall height is under the 35 feet to the average point of the roof, which is shown in my elevation here. We've already gone through conservation. There's some wetlands across the street, so we've satisfied all their concerns. So I think we have all the elevations here and floor plans. Not unlike other houses in the area. We have the smart fence and our, for hydro pressure in the foundation, so that's all provided. And
So the
basically that's it. It's the habitable attic on the house. It's our half-story.
Okay. The crawl space in the lower level, and the access to that lower level?
I'm sorry, Lynn, say that again?
The crawl space, can you please identify for the board the crawl space in that lower level?
Yeah, there should be a foundation plan here.
Okay. So it would be used as storage?
Actually,
Okay.
yeah, I thought there was a foundation plan on this, but there's the garage on the left-hand side, and then from that garage, you can walk up into the house, so that's the access, and then there's a storage area there, and we're making it a minimum height so that it does not meet any, potential living space, so it's not a habitable space.
Okay.
And they just need that for just basic storage.
Okay.
Which would still, it's in a flood zone, so it still has to be, I think I'm okay on my elevation. I'm still above perhaps elevation 11, I'd have to look. The elevations are over on the side there. Oh yeah, so that shows the elevation 9 flood zone going across. So it's, as I say, it's just a storage area, but not capable of being a habitable space.
Andrew, can you help me with the elevation, or Dick, would you
Yep.
clarify that,
So they're at elevation 9, AE 9.
yeah,
And for Marshfield, the minimum height for any structure in a flood zone is going to be 11 to the finished floor of the first floor. So right now, so what they're proposing with elevating the structure out of the flood zone is to use that, the enclosure below the structure to incorporate a garage and building access and storage area, which is allowable under the FEMA regulations and flood zone construction regulations for the state when you're elevating a structure. So his finished floor is at 15.1, which is 4 feet above the required elevation for that zone.
Dick, do you know if this applicant is the owner or has a lead? I'm looking at the application.
The applicant is the owner.
Okay, thank you. And we have the deed?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go back to the site plan? Thank you. You have the open space on this lot?
Pardon me, Lynn?
The open space on it? I can't see it. It's just here. I'm
Um,
sure you're fine. I think I looked at it earlier.
Is that the 30? I can't see that.
I can't either, so.
That's the impervious coverage there. We're within that percent of lot coverage, I know
Okay.
that. It should be on Rick's
I think I
plan.
went over it earlier. I just
Resend it.
don't have the note for it. Andrew, any comments?
No.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Was this sent to the planning board? And conservation's on board?
They already have conservation approval.
They had conservation approval. Is there anything else I'm missing? Brian, are you good with this? Mark? You guys?
Good.
Okay. All right, any comments from the public? Any special conditions that we feel is necessary for this particular project? Items 1 through 10 in our special permit. Had a chance to review. Items 1 through 10. Chris, you're good?
Yes.
Okay. Larry?
Yes.
Without us all going through these over and over again. Heidi?
No, I'm just reading over some notes and something.
Okay.
No. Okay.
The driveway, Dick, on this?
There's enough room to park, between the, to have off-street in front of the garage. I have 15 there, so, they are in a corner lot also. There is, right now they actually park on the side of the house, so there should be potentially some parking there. But you could park in front of the garage because you would still be off the pavement.
Okay. Two
In that area.
spaces?
But with two
Yeah.
off-street parking, box would be the garage itself, so, which is what we really have to provide.
And it's on town storage? No, it's one.
Yes.
Town storage and one conservation. Okay, I'm just going through my notes. See, this is, what are you looking at?
I'm just looking like what's leaving.
We need a
what's
couple
staying.
more minutes.
What's leaving, what's staying.
Okay, any comments from the public? Again, press *6 if you would like to be heard. Okay. Any further comments from the board? No?
No, I'm
We're
just
good? Okay. The elevation was good, the parking was good. Okay, so this is case 2146, 32 Surf Avenue. We are considering closing. Are we okay to close? Everybody? No comments, okay. I'd like to make a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi Conway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chris, aye. Larry?
Aye.
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 Lynn Fiddler, aye.
Aye.
Mark, aye.
Aye.
Brian, aye. Okay. And you were a voting member on this one, okay? So all those in favor of voting, I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit, acknowledging that the board has reviewed items 1 through 10 of our special permit for 10.12. Do I have a second to grant the special permit?
Aye. Yes.
Heidi Conway
Yes.
has motion seconded. All those in favor? Larry?
Aye.
Let's take Chris's vote. Chris?
Aye.
Aye. Larry?
Aye.
Heidi? Lynn Fiddler? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Brian?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. So it's currently 9:06, and I am recused from case 2144, CJV Automotive and Towing, which is 847 Webster Street. So I trust this to the board, and I will be back in touch with you, and we'll let Brian Murphy be the hearing officer for this, the rest of the evening. Anything
To call Steve?
Anything we,
Oh, the next one.
you want to come over here so you can,
Absolutely, no, no.
okay, you want to be good there. All right. So Mark says and I are. Yeah, let's make a motion to take a 5-minute recess. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Larry? Heidi?
Aye.
Lynn?
We
Mark?
have to get Steve on the phone, right?
Okay, so you're just going to pull everybody together for this last hearing. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yay.
All right, good. I'll be online in a moment.
All right, but we just need to do a roll call. You, Steve Feeney, are you here?
Yeah,
And you're remote?
yeah,
And you're working remote, correctly?
that's correct.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to open up meeting number 21-24, CJV Automotive and Towing Incorporated. The petitioner is seeking a special permit and a waiver of site plan approval in accordance with Marshfield Municipal Code 305, 10.10 special permit and 305-5.04 wholesale transportation and industrial section. 10, other transportations, services, and waiver site plan approval under 305-12-2. For the automotive towing and transportation use of repair and accessory thereunto under subsection 7. What are you saying?
Steve, star
Of
6.
accessory uses permitted therein and such other further relief pursuant to Marshfield Municipal Code as necessary on the property located at 847 Webster Street, Unit 6, which is further identified in Assessor's Map as being parcel 807-04-43 and located in the B1 zoning district. I'm Brian Murphy, and I'll be the hearing officer for this 21-44, and we'll go to the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Attorney Steve Gard. I'm representing the applicant CJB Automotive and Towing, Inc. With me is the owner of that company, Colby Vining. This evening before you is an application for a special permit, as the public notice indicated, that at 847 Webster Street, Unit 6, a commercial 6-bay steel building located within the B1 mixed-use district. The applicant seeks to permit an existing use that's been there for about 10 years for towing and transportation as an accessory use, the light repair of cars. That accessory use would not exceed 25% of the space within the structure, which is approximately 1,100 square feet total. 2 parking spaces immediately out front of the unit with access to 5 common area parking spaces as well. The applicant typically uses the repair facility from 8 to 5 on normal business days, but does rarely uses the transportation function of the business in a 24-hour way, but does need that access from time to time for emergency purposes for his tow trucks to come and go. It is rare that he does it after business hours. The application before you contains the usual deed, field cards, whatnot, but also submitted our support letters from 7 or 8, I think we're up to 8 of the neighbors who are direct abutters and on the assessor's abutters list as well. Also is a condominium unit site plan, as well as a condominium unit plan, floor plan that shows the division of the spaces as far as use goes. The applicant requests a waiver of site plan approval because there's no proposed changes to the existing structure, the parking lot, or any of that at all, which has been site plan approved years ago when the place was built. I think if there is any indication or modification, I should say, differentiation use of the property with respect to how it might affect the site plan, I would ask the board to make a finding that would be minimal and de minimis and well within the authority of the board to grant a waiver of the site plan approval. With that, it's pretty straightforward. That's pretty much what we're asking for.
So I guess the main question, Steve, is how do we get around the 2 uses, the 2 principal uses?
As far as, you mean in the unit itself?
Yeah.
Well, no, so the main use is the wholesale transportation. That's the towing company, which is let's call it a 3/4 use because it's 25% split. That is really his main company, is the towing operation, which falls under the wholesale transportation, section 10, other transportation services. And then as accessory thereto, there is under section 7, right below that in the wholesale transportation industrial, is the repair. That's how, so it's not 2 principal uses, it's 1 accessory use, the repair, 25% or less, and 1 principal use, the wholesale other transportation function. Does that answer your question?
What is wholesale transport? What does that mean?
Well, it's, so I guess it's transportation of anything, goods, services, automobiles, that he transports automobiles. That's what his job would be.
Do you do police towing there?
Yeah, for Duxbury.
For Duxbury?
For Sagebrush. And it's really seasonal.
Right.
You know, I try not to be out all night, honestly.
Yeah.
I have a young child, so.
So you got that
that's
style.
your kind of sale.
You got that style recovery truck for the beach for Sagebrush and stuff. Is that what you do?
Yeah, we're specialized.
Now, your repair, is that going to be a retail repair, or repair for your own personal vehicles, your truck, your equipment?
I do repair some of my own stuff when it's nothing major.
Yeah.
You know, the space doesn't permit, like, you know, tearing a whole engine down or something of that nature. So my repair as the accessory is really light. You know, I'm not taking people's engines out and stuff. But I do repair some of my own trucks from time to time.
Tires, batteries, accessories?
Yeah, you know.
Basic
like,
repairs, general
yeah,
repair?
the kind of brakes, tires, exactly, that type of stuff, you know?
Okay.
And that's what I've been doing in the unit for about the better part of 10 years, so.
Okay, so you've been there 10 years
Yeah.
already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I purchased the unit in January,
Mhm.
so it made sense now. Obviously, some things came to light once I own it. You know, now I can apply. It's kind of tough as, you know, there was no problems before, and
Mhm.
you know, ownership changed. There's some backstory to that. So things arose, and now I own it. So you know, it's worth it to come before you
Sure.
and put the application through. Now that I'm an owner.
Yeah. Now, as far as, I'm fairly familiar with this location, as far as cleanliness goes, you keep a nice clean place, yeah?
So the environmental.
I've seen your trucks around, they're always
Yeah,
very
we
well
try,
maintained.
you know, I pride myself on that. Third generation Marshfield person. I have deep roots in this town. You know, I definitely am a clean person. I brought a copy of the environmental report from Postanello Corporation. And, you know, to kind of quote Joe Postanello, who wrote the report, it's the cleanest shop he's ever been into. And he wrote that and wrote a recommendation for me as well.
Joe Bossanello?
Yeah, he's the environmentalist.
Clean Habits?
He actually, it's Postanello Corporation, I believe. And I can provide a copy of the
Yeah,
report.
no, that's fine.
But basically, he went in there and, you know, he took pictures, he did the report. His words were, it's the cleanest shop he's ever been into.
That's great.
And then if you spoke to any of my customers, I'm sure they would emulate that as well.
That's good.
I try to run a tight ship. If you read some of the neighbors have all supported me basically around the area, all the abutters. I think they all, you know, unequivocally said the same thing. It's clean, it's kept up, you know, I don't bother anybody. I'm not, you know, doing anything crazy. I try to keep everybody happy and everything rolling and everything nice and neat. So.
Great, good.
I think it's important to note too, talking about the neighbors, this is sort of a one very narrow street, off side street to Webster Street. The building's on Webster Street, but what's the name of the street that goes up?
Sinnott Lane.
Sinnott Lane. And there are residential homes up there, and you'll see in the letters of support, those folks are actually encouraging him, or everyone, to have him stay. They like having him there. He's clean, he's neat, he's a good neighbor, as they say.
That's great.
To touch on the property, Mr. Postanello wrote, the property and unit is operated in a well-managed and pristine condition, and no concerns of 21E or Board of Health as to operations. So, and he's written a pretty thorough report. When I bought it, the bank required that. Took pictures, went through everything.
So that's the 21E he did at the time?
So he didn't do a 21E, it was not required.
Didn't do a subsurface, just went around.
Yeah, basically like a light version of it. I'm not sure what it's exactly called, but I can, you know.
Pretty much 21E. It just-
Yeah, it's a
doesn't-
21E, and I think,
It's
yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
I bet it's a phase one. which
Yeah,
is
phase,
just
I think that's.
Surface
the term.
analysis, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we went, and we went through everything, and he was pretty thorough. I mean, it's a pretty large report, so. I was,
Never any outside debris, there's no outside storage of any kind of equipment or parts or anything like that. And
What about the cars? Where do you put those?
the cars, whatever
repair
cars,
cars.
typically the cars that he's working on stay inside the building. It doesn't have a lot of space, there's like space for 2 cars in the
yeah, I
building.
mean, a lot of my work, being light work, is in and out in the same day. It's nothing really, I mean, occasionally something stays overnight, but
So how many spaces do you have dedicated that you could put cars in?
Overnight? 4.
Inside, two
Yeah,
inside, 2 outside.
Yeah.
So two, I'm not, I
Oh,
don't care
not
about the
outside.
inside.
Oh, not outside.
No, inside 4. Yeah.
So what about outside?
Outside is actually no overnight parking permitted, so I don't leave anything out overnight.
That's all, I don't
So-
care about inside, that's your.
Yeah, no, we don't leave anything out overnight, you know, so, inside there's plenty of space for, I always tell people, I'm only one man, so I can't work on 20 cars, you know, there's not cars everywhere, it's just, you know, kind of easy jobs in and out, same day, so.
So how did this all come about if you've been there for 10 years? Like, how did this just come out of the blue? I mean, I've had my car fixed.
I think, honestly, I think I'll speak for Colby. I don't think he realized that he was supposed to have a permit to be there, to do that, you know, to do this, what he was doing. And then it just happened for so long. I know he talks about buying the building and now it's time. I don't think he really knew he was supposed to have that. Thought he was in a business district and it was allowed. And then, you know.
I received a request for zoning enforcement.
Right.
Which precipitated a lot of this.
Okay.
And Andrew was, you know.
Every, you know, several, you know, ongoing complaints. They've been trying to get some action on this for a while, and we're finally getting to come around to trying to resolve this in a way or another.
What are the nature of the complaints?
Just operating a repair business, a motor vehicle repair business in a B1 zone. So it was just on the use. That was, I believe the initial complaint was just about that. I received, that was from someone who had a unit further down, but the direct abutting unit, that owner had me come down and look. He was concerned about emissions coming from the other unit and was trying to show me possible leakage of emissions coming from the other side, which did appear that there was something, some kind of soot or something that had come through. That's what it appeared to me and the building inspector.
Was that ever addressed?
Yes.
What's that?
Was that ever addressed?
Well, it was addressed by telling them that they would either have to cease operations or seek a special permit with the ZBA.
But to the exhaust is being addressed, Colby, just addressed it based on Andrew's recommendation for the exhaust ventilation system.
And carbon monoxide doesn't create soot, so I don't think that issue was created by us, and I have no soot on my side of the building. So I believe the complaint was unwarranted. The person who had that unit had a diesel vehicle in there. I believe they created their own soot because there's no soot on my side. But to keep the peace, I bought an exhaust mitigation system that attaches to the tailpipe of the door. So
And I can also say that I did go in and inspect Colby's side, and I didn't see the same soot on their side that I did on the other side. Although it did appear that it didn't seem like it was just soot on the ceiling. It didn't seem like it the way it looks like it's coming through the other side. I don't know how a soot accumulates, where it does or whatnot. That's just what it appeared. But again, I couldn't see anything on the other side.
But to address that, you did buy a tailpipe.
yeah, no, I addressed
out
it.
the
I mean,
door.
not only because they complain. I honestly
You don't want to breathe it yourself.
No, I don't. And carbon monoxide doesn't create soot. So I mean, I addressed it because it needed to be addressed anyways. Nobody wants to breathe that either way. So I bought that. I actually brought the receipt from the vendor I bought it from. So I just wanted to address the concern. I don't want to aggravate anybody or.
Well, you can see your neighbors being concerned, and
Yeah,
and I do
absolutely.
appreciate the fact that
Yeah.
you addressed it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the right thing to do. That's how I've always operated. Since Lane's a one-lane road, there's some residents at the end of the road. I always try to just stay out of their way. I just try to be a good neighbor, So I thought it was the right thing to do, whether I needed to or not. I think it's the way to do business.
So if repair is not a permitted accessory, it's not directly related, it's not, that doesn't directly relate to the transportation. So repair doesn't directly relate to transportation, you towing cars, right? And then, so do you have any records that show that, it's only 25%, of what you're saying is only 25% of your business is repair? So do you have any records to show, just to, to show your point of, it's only 25%, it's not really the whole thing, just because it's really not an accessory use to, towing. It's just not. So
Well, towing-
that's what I'm struggling, because towing and repair are not the same thing.
But
There's
you
towing
do-
companies that don't repair, you know what I mean? So it's not, if that's your primary use is towing, if that's what's under, when you went to get, allowed to be there,
Yeah, but he does
It just
tow
doesn't-
cars that get repaired, and he does repair.
that's different. Is if you're towing something that's getting repaired, you're towing it because it needs to get repaired, that doesn't mean it has to get repaired there. So I'm just saying, to cover it, what do you have to clarify that? I guess that's what I'm asking.
How to basically divvy it up. I mean, it can change based upon the year. I mean, sometimes I tow my own customers' cars back to be repaired. Sometimes I'm towing for other shops. A lot of towing companies do run their repair shop as well. Some of the local ones in the area, you have Joseph's Towing in Norwell. They have a gas station, a garage, and a tow truck company. So, some of it is towing customers' vehicles back to be repaired.
Right, just because where you're at, it's not an accessory.
It's a convenience,
Right.
for customers. It's like a one-stop shop. They call us up, we tow the car, and we can fix it. So that's,
But so for the most part, your towing business, it accumulates some repair work.
In the past, so I've had to do some numbers in the past. I mean, obviously COVID affected some of the numbers. Everything's askew, but In the past, my insurance rate was based upon what we did, and for instance, I think shooting from the hip here, going back to 2018, it was like 85% towing, and the remainder was split up between repair and other things, and they based my insurance rate on that, you know, how much towing I was doing versus repairing, so I'm going back to pre-COVID, because COVID, who knows, you know, it was like a wild west out there. I felt like I was the only guy around, so, you know, I don't have anything to document that. I'd be happy to provide a.
No, I'm just trying to say
Yeah.
like how to, I don't see the connection, like I see the towing.
Yep.
And I see the repair. I've seen, my car's been, so I see that,
Yeah.
you know, it's a repair shop. To me, it's got a lift inside, doesn't it? Does it
Yeah,
not have a
yeah,
lift?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it has,
absolutely.
you know, so it's basically a repair shop. So I'm just trying to put,
Well, I use only the back
just want you to
25%
explain
to
the
repair.
connection, so it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I use the back 25% to repair, and that's what we tried to stick to per the guidelines, is me using the back 25%, because that's what's allowed by, you know, by permit. It says, you know, 25%, so I've stuck to that.
Do you have anything, Andrew?
I mean, not a whole lot more than, you know, when I have gone there. I mean, it's kind of, for me, it was, well, it's not allowed in this district without a special permit. So that was the first thing, just for the towing business, had to get a special permit. The repair aspect of it, I didn't necessarily know, you know, 100% where these guys should go with that. I made some recommendations, but I couldn't guarantee that the board would look favorably on that. But the one thing for me was you have to, at the very least, get a special permit for your towing business.
For the repair business.
What's that?
For the towing.
For the towing, because that requires a special permit in the B1.
And the repair's not allowed.
The
If
repairs
it's not,
are allowed.
as a primary use?
No,
No,
they're allowed
okay,
as an
so-
accessory use without a special permit.
Right, so,
No, we're bringing up the repair, so the special permit does not apply to the repair accessory use. But
That's
in
allowed.
in full open, you know, playing our hands open and not trying to hide anything, telling you this is there. I don't think the board even needs to address it from the special permit standpoint, because you don't really have the authority to do that. But I wanted the board to know. And I would have, you know, I think that we wanted the board to understand what was going on at the site. And I say you don't have authority. What I mean is, it doesn't need to be in a special permit decision, because it's permitted. Andrew can just, he can allow it. 'cause-
Well, so that's where I get into, you know, a little bit of a conundrum with that, because with the accessory use under that repair it's accessory repair and storage facilities in any retail sales or consumer establishment. So I guess the thing would be to prove that it's a consumer establishment first and foremost, right? So that's the thing that we have to prove. And then I can say, yeah, it would be accessory repair, but, you know, there's legal questions too. Does that accessory repair mean motor vehicle repair? Because that's a separate primary use listed in the table of uses. So you start to get into that aspect of it. That's where I have trouble making a determination, and that's why I'm like, this is something I need to send to the ZBA to make that kind of a determination, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna we'll start with the people in the room first. Does anyone in the public want to speak on this?
Yeah, my name's David Gould. I own the adjacent unit to Colby. And I was the one that had the, in fact, it just brought up to my mind that over the years, and I get along with them well. A few times I'd walk in there, there'd be diesel fumes or some kind of fumes in there. And this winter I had some downtime. I cleaned out my whole unit, and I was up, I cleaned down all the ceilings and everything, and all of a sudden I saw all this black soot that had been drifting through. The building, the units had not been properly sealed, I would say, there wasn't a tight fire stop. So, and I brought them over and showed them to him, and I had Andrew happen to come down. I had a previous conversation with him earlier in the day about something different, and I called him about it, and he said, I'll come down and take a look. But we fixed the fire stop and we painted it up and everything, so it should be fine. But my concern is is there adequate fire stop between my unit and his unit, as far as there was some type of an explosion or flammable fluid that caught on fire or whatever. That's my big concern, safety of everybody involved in the whole complex.
And what is your unit? What do you do there?
I have Unit 5, Colby has Unit 6.
And what's in your unit
What's your unit is what?
Pardon me?
What do you do in your unit? What's your?
I'm a building contractor. I use it to park some trucks. I put my equipment in there, you know, some materials and so forth. There's a small office in there that I use.
Anyone else from this audience?
My name's Steve Vining, and this
Yes,
is my son, Colby. I've been a resident here all my life. I consider Colby a young man that is going in the right track with his business. I've been in business in this town for almost 50 years. He's done it, you know, properly. His shop is impeccable. It is clean. I give myself credit for that. There's a lot of people in the town that really depend on him. Even the police department in Marshfield. A lot of business depend on him. I consider him as a businessman, you have an asset or a liability. I consider himself a asset to the community and an upcoming young man that's going to do something in this town. He was born and raised in this town. I can't say enough about him, and I'm just proud of him. And I think he's going in the right direction, and he's trying to do the right thing.
Thank you. No, anyone else? No? And we'll go to the Zoom.
The Zoom group?
Zoom group. Who would like to speak first?
I would if you
sure.
You don't mind. Jay Creed, I represent the Old Colony Depot Condo Owners Association, and my clients oppose the application as submitted because it's not appropriate as a special permit grant. The specific accessory use, and I think it's been discussed here tonight in part. I have to say the acoustics are a little bad, so I'm not sure I caught everything that everyone said. But the accessory use that's being implicated, accessory use item 7, which is accessory repair and storage facilities in a retail, sales, or consumer establishment. And my clients are having a hard time justifying and wrapping their heads around how a towing and wrecking operation is a retail or a consumer establishment. It certainly is being presented that there aren't going to be people coming in and out of the operation at this unit. And it's hard for me to see how this is an accessory to that use, given that language. And what it really is, in our opinion, is principal use. Bear with me just a second, if you would. Principal use 16, which is gasoline sales, which obviously doesn't apply, but automotive repair, automotive service station or garage, etc., etc. That's principal use, which is not allowed in the B1 district. As such, I think that the application of petition here is inappropriate, as it has to be a use variance. That assumes, of course, that the zoning board will consider that you can have two principal uses in one of these condominium units. I don't know that you folks have ever done that before, but in any event, you don't have it before you because a variance hasn't been applied for. Unless you can somehow wrap your head around how this is a retail or consumer establishment, retail service or consumer establishment. And I don't see how that size 12 foot fits into a size 7 shoe.
Any guys have questions for Attorney Green?
Yeah, Colby, actually for Colby, could you, if this gets continued, could you provide documentation that your percentage of your business is with the retail, what you're doing for service?
Now, when you say retail, what's the definition of that? Like, because I
Well,
mean,
what you're doing for your service. Your service is going to be an accessory use.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you were
no.
saying 25%, you said your
yeah, I
insurance
mean, in
documentation.
COVID, I mean, it's probably even less, honestly.
Sure.
You know, definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I could certainly categorize it. I mean, how, you know.
Sure.
You know,
I think your the insurance document you discussed.
That would satisfy me, but with that being said, it's, to me, I look at it, towing and automotive, it's kind of, you're kind of tripping over it. Yeah, it's coming to you, it's going to be retail. I would define it as retail. Fixing somebody's car would be a retail service.
Yeah, I mean, I think that retail and consumer, I'm not, I mean, that's, anybody here walks into a store,
Sure.
you know, that's retail and you're a consumer.
Mhm.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, that, you know, I know that the bylaws seem to be loosely written so you can, I mean, not everybody fits in, not every pie is the same shape or cut the same way. It's, you know, sometimes there's a case like this where, you know, maybe it's an interpretation of how you interpret it, but it's still, I'm providing to consumers. I mean, I don't know who else there is out there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
People call me, we provide a service, and they're a consumer.
Yep, and again, with that type of documentation that you're
Yeah, no, I'd
providing.
be
that-
happy. I mean, I'd be
Yeah.
happy to provide a QuickBooks statement.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID one is
Sure,
kind of
that'd be
skewed.
good.
I mean, I'm happy to do
Yeah.
that, you know, it's,
I mean, 18, 19, that's
yeah,
close.
I'd be
to-
happy to provide it for 18 and 19. I mean, you can see, I can tell you, it's, the auto repair is probably, I mean, I have to run the report, you know, I know it's under 20% because I had this fight with my insurance guy.
Sure.
And he's like, you know, they want documentation on what you're doing. So I provided him that, I have it in an email, but I'm happy to
That'd be
provide that as
great.
well.
Now, as far as your abutter goes, they have concerns with there being firewalls between them. How could that be addressed to alleviate that issue?
The original building plan says the wall was fire rated.
Sure.
So,
How long ago was the building built?
Early 2000s.
Okay, so it's not that old of a building?
No, not at all. It's in good
It
shape.
was built to current codes?
And into like the concern over the fire, any chemicals that we keep are
Mm-hmm.
stored properly. The environmental report touches on that, the stored
Yep.
inflammable cabinets. We're not doing any
Sure.
type of welding.
And the
That-
fire department doesn't routine inspections on your property?
No, they have no requirement. I actually called them to ask about that, and I was told there was no requirement for
Really?
any type of fire inspection, because I'm not,
Mhm.
you know, storing gasoline. I don't sell gasoline, I don't store
Yeah.
gasoline, any of that, so they weren't concerned.
Even if you made a special request to them, would they come by and give you something for the next meeting for?
I mean, possibly,
Yeah,
you know.
maybe you could reach
I mean,
out to them.
I will invite anybody who wants to come in and take a look. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I mean, I know Andrew touched on that, he's been in, it's, you know, it's pretty spotless. It's
Sure.
very, you know,
I'm sorry?
it's very clean.
Yeah, which is good. I'm sure, you know, the community wants that, and
Yeah.
your butters do.
Oh, absolutely. I
And you
mean,
being a property owner now, I'm sure
Yeah.
you do too.
And if you read some of the abutters letters, I think they all touch on that.
Yeah,
You know, every
yeah.
one of them, I think, touches upon that, which I thought was great. You know, these people wrote these letters on their own, out of the goodness of their heart. I had asked them, you know, if they would write a letter to support me, and they said, yeah, absolutely.
Good.
You know,
So, I mean, I've been in your shop, it's clean, and I don't think that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Like, you know, you run a nice place, okay, so I don't have any question about that.
Okay.
My only is these are the bylaws,
Yep.
and I'm just kind of concerned about the permitted accessory use of repair and how it ties into retail and consumer, which you're saying is the towing. So I just am not getting the answer how they're gelling. I don't know, I just don't get it. So, I mean, that's my dilemma.
Mhm.
So, I'm just not questioning how well you work or
Oh, no,
any of
no, I
that,
was just
because you do a
answering,
very
yeah.
nice job.
Yeah,
So,
thank
I-
you.
you know,
I
I
appreciate
totally
that.
get that, and
Yeah.
it's nice to have all those people that support you. Do you know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
It's
Yeah.
great, and obviously you're of value to the community. However, we still have to tie them in together, so.
So I
it's
guess
kinda-
if you wanted to, you know, an interpretation is this: a consumer calls me on the phone, says their car's broken down, let's just say, You know, the wheel bearing's broken. That's the consumer, they call me, I get in the tow truck, I drive to the consumer, pick the consumer up, and they say, will you repair my vehicle since you're already here, you know, towing it? It only makes sense, I'll write one check, not four. You know, not call, you know, ABC Towing and then tow it to this place and that place. It's, you know, and then I bring it back, and I repair it, and they come pick it up, and hopefully everybody's happy.
So do we have anyone else from the Zoom audience out there that wants to speak to this? Steve Feeney, do you have anything to comment?
You gotta hit *6 if you're using your phone, Steve.
Yeah, I'm off. I kind of agree with Heidi and kind of go along with that with Attorney Creed's thinking. Is where, you know, it's difficult to understand, to really hear what's going on, but from what I could gather, I'm kind of in agreement with the two of them. I didn't hear the other board members. But.
So, how does the board feel about continuing this, and we could get some legal help from Attorney John Whitten?
Yeah, and I'd like it if they have something else to be able to bring to the table. I think that it's fair enough to be able to do that. If that's what everybody, I mean, that's just my opinion. If you have something else to bring to the table to help with the correlation between the two, I think that's fair. Anybody else?
I think what Larry said is correct. Some sort of indication as to the percentages of the breakdown, and
Absolutely.
maybe even some specifics as to how many cars might come in and out every year for the purposes of repair.
And we do realize with COVID, we get that.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but I could definitely provide a QuickBooks report of the towing percentage versus the auto repair to go back and, you know, try to figure out what, you know, I can provide that percentage definitely.
Something like your insurance statement would be.
Yeah, so the insurance asked me to basically, we use QuickBooks as an accounting system.
Yep.
He asked me to just basically, you know, do the report on QuickBooks that shows the percentage, you know, auto repair, towing, whatever other services that may be in there. So I'm happy to provide that for 2018 and 19. I think that's a good interpretation of what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
all bets are off, as everybody knows with this year. You know.
Yeah. I'm not having a hard
Push this
time.
out, but would we want, because John Whitten is, I asked him, you know, his thought on this one, and he said that we just had to make the correlation between the two principal uses.
Right. Yeah, we're not.
And he believed that it could be done, but he can't talk to us because he's in another
Yeah.
meeting, so.
Yeah.
We'll just go
Well, to me, if we-
the 13th.
Sure.
That's
You
fine.
guys good with that?
What was the date, Heidi?
The 13th, July? Right, is that the
That's our next meeting, yeah.
Do we have a lot, anything? What's happening besides that last one?
And Colby, if you, just maybe we'll clarify, it may help for everybody involved,
We got it.
particularly the public,
Yeah.
if you're more specific about the types of repairs that you're doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
You could
touch
put that in
upon
your
it.
submission,
Yeah.
just, you don't have to do it tonight, but just some idea that so people know this is either a big, heavy-duty.
No, I mean, I'm
Or
only.
it's a light repair.
So, yeah,
That'll make a
this- how
difference
it
in the
correlates
assessment.
one, Steve, you know what it needs to, so how it correlates one to the other, so that, because right now, I can't, as much as I would love to, I can't, it doesn't, so.
Sure. Absolutely. We'll do an analysis of the type of repair.
Make that consumer thing go a little bit easier, might make that consumer thing go a little easier.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of different consumer establishments, you know, everybody thinks of, oh, it's retail, that means you gotta walk in and buy something, but there are, you know, tailor shops, there are all kinds of barber shops, those are consumer services that are retail services.
So we just need to know how the transportation, if the repair is an accessory to the transportation. That's what you need to show us, and I don't think we've got that yet.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we continue the hearing, leave it open until July 13th.
Second.
Heidi, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Heidi? Myself, aye. Brian Murphy? Danny?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
See on
you.
the,
Late night?
13th.
Late night
Yes.
tonight. Starting earlier these days, though. I like to keep
So
it
now I'm gonna
6:30.
make a
I like
motion
that.
to end this meeting
Second.
Aye. All in favor, Chris, aye. Aye. Heidi, aye. Brian, aye. Jeannie? Aye. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your expeditious.
Look at costume, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot all about it, I figured it'd be wrapped up, Brian.